The flat stages of the first week have come to an end, and it was Robbie McEwen who proved once again in yesterday's stage that he's the man to beat in the sprints. Shutting down all other attempts on the line, the Australian took home win number 3 for the week and secured a firm hold on the green jersey. Tom Boonen has yet to take home a stage win, but he is still atop the leaderboard in yellow. But his days may be numbered, as today the race changes, and the individual time trial facing the riders will determine who is a true contender in the race for the overall yellow jersey. Stage 7, the stage we've been waiting for, the Tour de France, next on OLN. Welcome to the Saab Tour pre-race show. Straight ahead, stage 7, one of 5 or 6 days that will define the 2006 Tour de France. We're in Brittany, where the weather changes by the minute. The capital is the city of Rennes. The finish line here after 32 miles beginning just outside of town. We're at the finish line in our mobile studio. That's the university where hopefully they have learned all about aerodynamics, power, and wattage all on the line today with the individual time trial. I'm Al Trautwig along with Bob Roll and Floyd Landis' coach Robbie Ventura. If you were with us yesterday, you heard Lance Armstrong say on his dream team in the Tour de France, he doesn't even have a sprinters. They've had their fun, and they're not great at this. Now, let me get this straight. 32 miles, you and Floyd go out there today at about 75% and do every mile of it?
Absolutely.
That's preparation, Bob.
That's great preparation. You were sitting on the wheel. Floyd's going 75%. How hard are you going?
I'm going 110%, 110% easy.
Take a pause before we talk any more about the individual time trial. Just a quick recap of what we saw yesterday. A flat stage, a breakaway, a catch, and then some wondering whether Tom Boonen in yellow and all the protection his team's given him, whether it's cost him a stage win.
A heavy burden to carry for Team Quick-Step, that yellow jersey of Tom Boonen. No men left for the lead-out. Robbie McEwen has his man Von Sumeren. He's celebrating, and so is Robbie McEwen, the fastest man in this year's Tour de France. Great stage win for the Australian just before the time trial.
He's taken 3 stages, but today he begins to fade away from the overall standings, which are presented by Michelob Ultra. Now, Michael Rogers, he could be a player today. George Hincapie, obviously, as well. In 5th place right now. On page 2, you've got Floyd Landis. He says he thinks he can win this. And then you've got David Zabriskie, who turned in the fastest individual time trial a year ago in Tour history. Bobby Julich once finished 3rd in this event. Years later, can he be a player today? We don't know. Let's stick with what we think is going to happen today as far as Floyd Landis. How long has he been targeting this?
He's been thinking about this for the last year. Really focused in Strasbourg.
That seems like a long time ago already. What's this stage going to look like, Bob?
Saint Grégoire down to Rennes. It's a circular route, flat roads, not very technical. Perfect for Dave Zabriskie, 52 kilometers in length and 1 feed zone. They're going to fly through that. They won't need to stop and slow down whatsoever. But there is one out there anyways. I don't know why.
Update us on how Floyd feels about himself, the course, and how it works for him.
Course sets up absolutely perfectly for Floyd. I mean, there's some rolling hills early, so it's good for light. Floyd's very, very light right now. He can go up and over those hills very, very easy. The course is nice and smooth. The course is super smooth. It's perfect for the fast guys like Zabriskie and Landis. I think he's going to have a great day out there.
Now, Robbie, you've told us that you think Floyd is going to have a different aerodynamic profile than virtually anyone in the race. We'll compare him with David Zabriskie. Tell us what that gives him compared to everybody else.
Zabriskie and Landis are probably 2 of the most aerodynamic people in the peloton. In this time trial, it's so important to be aerodynamic. It's going to be fast. These guys are going to be going flying. These guys are going to be flying at, close to 30 miles an hour the entire time. Let's do a little comparative analysis here between David Zabriskie and Floyd Landis. David's position, very traditional, but he is so aerodynamic. His hands fold in like a bat. His knees are behind his arms. His head is nice and low. His body is extremely low to the ground, and he's very, very narrow. The wind flows through his body. Now we got Floyd Landis on the left, completely different. His hands are nice and up in front of his face. The wind is actually punched. He actually punches a hole in the wind with his hands. The air flows around his helmet. Totally different position, but also very, very fast.
It worries me a little bit, Robbie, when I look at Floyd coming down the road so quickly. If he can see where he's going with his hands up in front of that.
We talked about it today. He can barely see where he's going. I mean, basically, he opens his thumbs just a little bit, looks through that little hole, and he actually relies a lot on John Lalonde to tell him what's coming up, what the turns are happening. He also says he looks at the brake lights of the motorcycle ahead to see how much braking he needs to do for these turns.
So is he actually steering with his elbows almost?
Absolutely. All of his body weight is on those handlebars. I mean, almost, I'd say 80% of his steering and his body weight are on those 2 little pads, those handlebars give way, it's over.
As far as course knowledge goes, you got to give Floyd an edge. Did you see anybody else out there?
He was the only guy out there today. That made him really, really excited. We had a great ride. It was very, very relaxed. He feels good. His mind is just right. His position looks very, very tight. He's ready to rock and roll today.
There is one problem everybody wants to avoid today. It's time for Bobke's Guide to the Tour, and the keywords are lactic acid.
Lactic acid building up in the body. We say how fast the sprinters are. Well, if they're so fast, how come they can't win a time trial? They are good at explosive bursts for short periods of time. Lactic acid management is a hallmark of the fast time trialist. Also, right below there, when you start to go into the red zone, you have to be very efficient. Sub-threshold efficiency, you need to spend about an hour in this bike race just below the red zone. You have to be able to identify that and stay right there. Also, it's a different type of velocity. You're as aerodynamically shaped as you possibly can be in the time trials. You're not holding the drops, flailing around and sprinting flat out for 200 meters. You're going 52 Ks, just as narrow and arrow as you can be.
All right, at stage 7, the individual time trial. When we come back, Phil Liggett and Paul Sherwen will join us. We'll make our picks for the Saab yellow jersey. Hincapie, that's a very good choice. Zabriskie, an excellent choice. He set a record a year ago. Levi Leipheimer, I don't know if he's going to get picked. And finally, Floyd. Yeah, I think he's going to go.
The 2006 Tour de France pre-race on OLN is presented by Saab. Once you've built jets, you don't build just another car. Saab, born from jets.
The aerodynamic principles that keep a Saab jet in the air help the Saab 9.5 remain firmly on the ground. Introducing the new 260 horsepower Saab 9.5. Once you've built jets, you don't build just another car. Take flight in the newly redesigned 9.5 sedan for under $35,000.
Welcome back to the Saab Tour pre-race show. We're all set for stage 7, an individual time trial that most likely will put a new man in the yellow jersey. The finish line here in the capital of Brittany, the city of Rennes. This is an individual time trial of 32 miles. That's like going around the Daytona Tri-Oval 13 times, and there is plenty of time trial history in this part of the country. Al Trautwig with Bob Roll, and now rejoined by Phil Liggett and Paul Sherwen. I don't know what's more amazing, that we've had to wait this long for a defining moment in this tour, or the fact that with the dismissals and the way things have evolved, it's an American story today.
Very much an American story, and there are 3 Americans who will believe they can win the Tour de France. Well, today we're going to find out if they're staying on course to do that, Al. They've got to do a good ride in the time trial.
What do you think the cycling world is thinking of this being the story?
A bit strange, I think. You know, a couple of years ago we didn't see that many Americans at the top end of the overall standings, but this year in the Dauphiné Libéré, a race just before the Tour de France, we had 4 Americans in the top 4 places of an individual time trial, and the French papers the next day said this is the American National Championships.
Must be special for you, considering you were right there when the foundation was being laid for American cycling.
We couldn't time trial to save our lives, so it's great to see so many good American corns out there qualming the course. The French were disappointed when Lance retired. I got tough noogies for y'all. We got a bunch of guys behind them.
And in Bob's words, the Americorns have done well lately. This includes team time trial success and a lot of what Lance Armstrong brought in the last few years, of course, but Americans have won 6 of the last 7 time trials in the Tour. And in the 2006 prologue, without Lance, of course, Hincapie was good, Zabriskie was good, and Floyd Landis was good. Here they handicap the race.
Realistically, I'm not really expecting to win, but to limit my losses to some of the better time trialists.
It'll be pretty much my first real long time trial that I've ever gone for in the Tour. So I just hope to finish up there with the leaders. You know, if I could win, that'd be awesome.
If I'm good, position won't be a problem. My legs are good. I think I can win. Otherwise, we'll see. But I feel good, so hopefully tomorrow it's the same.
Longer the better, I think. I mean, I don't feel that I slow down when it's longer. anytime there's one of those, it's a possibility for me.
You can tell they all sound different. Zabrisky's run the fastest time trial in Tour history. Floyd Landis has a year of experience of being the man. George has never been in this spot before, and Levi Leipheimer doesn't exactly exude confidence for winning. What did you think of what we heard?
I think the enthusiasm is fantastic. These guys, their only enemies are from the same nation. They're racing against each other today.
I think what's pretty scary is the fact that Dave Zabriskie says, it doesn't matter how long it is, I just don't slow down.
Zabriskie is an absolute genius. Bit eccentric at times. Floyd Landis, George Hincapie, Levi Leipheimer. What a great stage. It's going to be fantastic.
It's time now to make our picks and show you what happened yesterday in our Saab yellow jersey race. Phil and Paul got shut out. I don't know how that happened, but Bob got the stage win. And because Robbie McEwen's teammates stood up at the end, I snuck in and grabbed a couple of points. And so I can hear the Tour de France orchestra as I dip into my secret hiding place.
Well, there you go. You're starting to look
I've
good
been wearing it since Strasbourg, and now it's
look what happened. There's still no dirt on it. It's amazing.
It's very clean. Unfortunately, I'm in the unenviable position of picking first today, and there is no more positive person than Robbie Ventura, so I'm going to ride on his back. He tells me Floyd Landis is ready and good to go, and I'm going to take this downhill skier aerodynamic position and ride it all the way to keep the yellow jersey today. That's how I'm feeling. I think Floyd is going to be fast enough to win this. Picking next would be you, I think, Mr. Sherwen.
Well, I think you've taken Floyd. I'm going to take Dave Zabriskie because he's told us already he is not going to slow down. Doesn't matter the distance, he is the fastest and he's the most aerodynamic in the whole Tour de France peloton this afternoon. So I reckon Dave Zabriskie is going to bring me back into the race. Not back into the lead, but into the race.
Team CSC could use it. They've gotten very little so far. Phil, do you take an American or not?
Well, I just love taking everyone that Bob really wants to pick because he's last today, and I'm going to go for the one he would really love, George Hincapie. George was 8th in the big time trial last year. Well, 5 of the riders ahead of now no longer in the Tour de France. I think George will go all the way today, and he'll grab a big win in a great race.
That leaves you, Mr. Roll, day after your birthday.
All the best picks are taken. I'm going to go with the Australian 3-time world time trial champion. He's also right up there on the general classification, Mick Rogers, and that's who I'm going to go for.
All right, that's it. The individual time trial today. We've been waiting for this. 32 miles. Someone will shine today. King of the Hill format. The leader, Tom Boonen, will go last. We'll be watching each and every mile. This is Stage 7 of the 2006 Tour de France on OLN.
The 2006 Tour de France pre-race on OLN is presented by Saab. Once you've built jets, you don't build just another car. Saab, born from jets.
Bedhead. Proof that you've experienced the new Hampton bed. A plush comforter, a crisp white duvet, and choice of pillows. You'll be well rested and ready for anything. Hampton, home of the proud bedhead.
I live strong for my little brother.
I live strong for my mom.
For my wife.
For my teacher.
For my grandma.
I live strong for Pops.
For strength.
For my family.
I live strong for my hero.
For my best friend.
I live strong
for my grandbabies.
I live strong for myself.
Join AMD and HP in support of the Lance Armstrong Foundation. Every purchase of the HP Special Edition L2000 Notebook PC sends $150 to help people affected by cancer. Exclusively at CompUSA. Learn more at livestrongpc.com.
LL Bean gear. If it lives up to our test, you can be sure it will live up to yours. For a free catalog of everything you need for fall, call us or shop now at llbean.com.
The sky is perfect blue, no cloud could spoil the view. It's the and the bees are flying in the trees. The sun's in the sky, just for you and I. It's a sign from above that shows that we're in love.
Attention.
Bicycle Village, the ultimate bike shop. Bicycle Village has Colorado's largest selection of bikes, from tandems to trikes to top-end bikes. All the best brands and the largest selection. Over 1,000 bikes set up and ready to ride from the brands you want, like Trek, Specialized, Raleigh, Lightspeed, and more. Only Bicycle Village offers same-day bike service to get you back on your bike quicker. Plus lifetime tunes and an unbeatable performance guarantee on every bike we sell. And we always guarantee the lowest prices. Bicycle Village, the ultimate bike shop.
Glow. 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 Glow.
Glow, 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 glow. Glow, 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 glow.
Alrighty then. Let's glow camping.
After a week on the flats, the real contenders of this year's tour are now set to emerge. The first true test begins with today, a 52-kilometre time trial race against the clock. The American contingent are the heavy favourites and are ready now to flex their muscles. Discovery's George Hincapie is primed for a breakout ride in his first attempt as a team leader. Floyd Landis of Team Phonak has proved to be dangerous. He's targeted this stage. Gerolsteiner's leader, Levi Leipheimer, is also a threat and should use this stage to catapult himself high up in the overall. And don't forget time trial specialist David Zabriskie of Team CSC. He conquered in a time trial just 1 year ago. There's a slew of challengers who await, such as Aussie Cadell Evans of Team De Vitamin Lotto and world champion of the time trial Michael Rogers of T-Mobile. They are specialists of the race of truth. The clock ticks down as the Tour de France continues with Stage 7, the time trial, next on OLN. This is the capital city of Brittany. The city is Rennes. It's 200,000 inhabitants. Most of them are now out on the course because it's day 8 of the Tour de France. It's the first big showdown. This is time trial day, everybody. Hi, I'm Phil Liggett, joined, of course, by Paul Sherwen. Today, Paul, the big favourites have got to come out and play.
Well, for a week, all the big names have been hiding in the pack, but today is a very important rendezvous if you want to win the Tour de France. And if you look back in the history books, Miguel Indurain won the first time trial when it was before the mountains and went on to win the Tour de France. And so did a man by the name of Lance Armstrong. He did exactly the same thing. So for all the guys who want to win, today's the first D-Day.
Well, for the last 7 years, we've talked about one American likely winner of the time trial, Lance Armstrong. We can talk about an awful lot more American winners today.
We can. You know, over the last couple of years, the Americans have completely dominated time trialing. You know, on June the 7th this year, a time trial in the Dauphiné Libéré had 4 Americans in the top 4 places. Zabriskie, Landis, Leipheimer and George Hincapie. Admittedly, Rogers and Cadell Evans weren't there on that occasion, but it looked very much like an American national time trial championships.
Oh boy, you couldn't be truer words there, Paul. This is Dave, this is Chris Horner here. He's already finished the ride today. He's currently sat in 12th position. Very good start. And there is the man who set the best time so far, Serge Lang. He also started in the prologue in a similar fashion as we now go out onto course here. And we're looking at the situation there. 1:2:47, the time done by Lang. He's only just finished, actually, taking over the mantle from the Swedish time trial champion, Gustaf Larsson. Post Postuma is sitting in 3rd place, and Victor Hugo Peña used to ride with Lance Armstrong, sitting 4th, with Grabs in the 5th place. That's the top 5. This is Inigo Landaluz, who was last year's winner of the Dauphiné Libéré. This year it was...
It was a man by the name of Levi something. Levi...
Leipheimer.
That's right, yeah.
I hope you get better.
It was a pretty dominant win as well. It was something that he really wanted to do. He wanted to win the Dauphiné Libéré, and everyone was saying, well, what about the Tour de France? And Levi said, I just want to win this race. I've wanted to win it for a long time, and he was certainly exceptionally dominant. He probably thought he should have won it the previous season. Right now, there's some very strange results out on the course. The last man at the finish line in the time trial this afternoon is Jens Voigt, a man who has been very aggressive. Haven't got the story on exactly what happened to Jens Voigt, but he actually only went round the course in a time of 1 hour and 11 minutes, and that's not like Jens.
It most certainly isn't, and in fact, we haven't seen too much of him all week, so I hope he's okay. It's not like Jens to hide from us for too long. There's Sylvain Chavanel doing the best times at the checks just now. Looking now here in this lovely straight, Sylvain Chavanel went through the first check at 16 kilometers. 111 riders of the 171 have now gone through there. He's got the best time. He's topped Larsen. Lang, in fact, was only third at this checkpoint, but he came steadily up to the leaderboard, where he sits back in the finish now with the leads. Serge Lang, he's got a 1 hour, 2 minutes, 47 second lead in the house, and that's 29 seconds better than Larsen of Sweden. We're looking now at Per de Guerro.
Phil, did you call him Serge Lang again?
Oh dear.
I think you've got that thing in the back of your mind.
Mine, that's long since gone.
Sebastian Lang is 5'11", weighs in at 154 pounds. He's an exceptionally good time trialer because he's the German national time trial champion. Finished the Tour de France last year in 65th place overall, and he's currently riding his third Tour de France. I have a feeling that Sebastian Lang is going to stay at the top. And if you remember, in the opening day's prologue time trial, he actually stayed at the top end of the leaderboard there for a very long time.
Didn't slip that far away from the lead at the end either in the prologue time trial, so he is on good form this year in the time trials at least. Remember that this is the start now. The big favourites, most of them going at the back end of the field, are then going to cross swords with one another and to see who goes down to the Pyrenees with a chance of outriding the other ones in the mountains.
Bernard Eisel been involved in 1 or 2 of the sprints out on the course. I don't think he'll be putting in a great time trial performance here this afternoon. There's some big names, though, back at the top end of the board who really must fight it out for the overall win.
Well, back out on the course, we're still pushing on with the riders who are quite a long way down the overall classification at the moment. Of course, we haven't forgotten to tell you who is the leader of the Tour de France today. It is Tom Boonen. But Tom Boonen, he'll be last to start today. He won't be winning the time trial, and I doubt if he'll still be in the lead when we get to the end of today. We'll take a break.
The 2006 Tour de France on OLN is brought to you by Cervelo.tv and by Lenovo, makers of ThinkPad, including the ThinkPad tablet and ThinkPad widescreen.
53-minute time. They are piling it on. Look at the time of Team CSC. 52:28.19, an average speed of 55.57 kilometers an hour.
The Lenovo ThinkPad tablet, powered by Windows XP Tablet PC Edition.
It's coming. 5 new vehicles. All have our best ideas within them. All are engineered for people who love the road. It's coming. The next generation of Nissan thinking for the next generation of Nissan drivers. Get ready. Shift 2.0 is coming.
This summer, get the sunblock that also blocks the bite. New Bullfrog Mosquito Coast Sunblock and Repellent. Up to 8-hour protection against harmful rays and pesky bites without the odor. New Bullfrog Mosquito Coast. Block the burn and the bite.
Who is Floyd Landis? He helped Lance get wins 5 and 6, and now he wants to keep the yellow jersey in America. The cyclism, the men who would be king, Tour de France, continues tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. live, only on OLN.
OLNTV.com is on tour and right in the middle of the Tour de France. Get instant and exclusive access to clips, photos, bios, and race routes, along with stage summaries and forecasts from our team of experts. OLNTV.com, your link to the Tour de France.
Subway Dinner Theatre presents The Unfed. I smell a blockbuster! And for dinner, Subway restaurants!
And the delicious new bourbon chicken sandwich. Tender chicken in a zesty sauce, hot and fresh from the oven on freshly baked bread.
Subway! Eat fresh!
Your engine knows what it wants. Pennzoil Platinum. Relearn what you know about synthetic at pennzoilplatinum.com.
Welcome back. Haunting music there as the riders take their turn one by one at 2-minute intervals. As the riders now are racing up towards the line in very fast formation here now. This is the man who won the road race stage up Alpe d'Huez a few years back, Giuseppe Guerini, and he's nowhere near the time we didn't expect him to be. He's not a great time to ride, he's a very good climber. He's coming up the time of Lang, still very much the best time, 29 seconds better than Larsson of Sweden, the Swedish time trial champion, behind the German time trial champion overall at the moment. So Giuseppe Guerini's turn is over for the day. There's the situation as we've just explained. It's the German time trial champion at Lang at the top, the Swedish champion Larsson, and the Dutch champion Postuma there in third place. I think he's the Dutch time trial champion. I will check that for you. He's a rider, hasn't won a great deal in his, yes, he was third actually in the national championships the week before the Tour de France. Lovely crowd in Rennes. They've piled out here into the streets of this city. The start in Saint Grégoire, not too far away in the suburbs. It's a huge loop around the countryside. No major climbs out on the countryside today, and the wind is a gentle breeze. It's almost no breeze at all. The riders, I think, will be creating their own turbulence today. Sylvain Chavanel started off full of inspiration, rocked the timekeepers at 16.5 kilometers done, and now approaching the finish. Look at this, Paul. He was 1.5 minutes down at Lang, and in fact when he went to that first check he was 7 seconds ahead of him. Now he's losing by 2 minutes.
Well, I find it very strange because this man can always get it right for the French national championships. He's won this title 2 years in a row, but whenever he comes to perform in an individual time trial at the Tour de France, he seems to crumble, and here he's going to crumble by at least 2 minutes to Sébastien Lang. Although he's still got a fairly good rhythm going, he has blown away quite a large number of minutes.
Well, it's just going to be almost exactly. There's 2 minutes going by, and a little bit over the top, about 2 minutes too. Down for Sylvain Chavanel. I don't think he had any trouble at all, actually. I think it was just a matter of the legs slowing down after that 16-kilometer fast start for him.
I think that was the problem. He went out much too quickly and wasn't able to dose his effort, because if you look at the first time check, the man who leads currently, Sébastien Lang, he was actually only third, and he moved up to second at the next time check, and then he only moved up into first place at the final checkpoint before the finish, and that was when he went through in a time of 56 minutes and 20 seconds, and he held that over the last 6 kilometers to cross the line in first place. But there are a lot of big names stacked up at the back with a lot of time at stake here this afternoon, because of all the favourites, you could almost say that the fastest of the favourites will probably be the leader of the Tour this evening.
Well, this is Sandy Cassar here. He's the man that got the mobile phone in his face when they tried to take a photograph at the foot of the Kouberg in the Netherlands early on the Tour in the first week. He's underway. We're switching now to watch the start here of Eddie Merckx' son, Axel. We think he's riding out his final season this year. He's deciding to retire, and the concentration. He wants to leave on a high note, of course, and Axel getting the countdown. Rides for Phonak, married to a Canadian lady, as he now makes his start here. Sits in 45th place overall in the race. Switching back to the finish, the arrival of Damiano Cunego. I don't think we've mentioned his name this week yet. I'm sure we'll see him in the mountains of the Pyrenees. But Damiano Cunego, a real star in his home tour, the Tour of Italy. He's yet to produce the odds here in this year's Tour de France.
Well, he's losing a fair chunk of time as well as he comes up to this time check. The time to beat is that of Larson. But Cunego certainly is not doing a very good performance here. He will have to, I think, just ride out for stages when we come to the big mountain passes.
Well, I think he's afraid of the Tour de France, in all honesty, because this is his first time in the Tour. We know what he can do in his home Tour. He's been a challenger there, but he's still a very young rider. He's barely 25 years of age till September, and so we mustn't start criticising him too much. He's already ridden the Tour of Italy, and now here he is at the Tour de France. But nipping through the chicanes on the road here, Axel has made his start. This is a great course. Many of the riders who've got ambition, all of the riders who have ambition today to ride well, have been around the course on the bike this morning, checking it out. Under the race regulations, once the time trial starts, they are not allowed to ride on the course, so they would have had to been out quite early this morning, because with a time trial, almost an all-day affair today, the first rider getting underway at just before 11 o'clock this morning, so full day for the spectators.
Full day, long day out there in the hot sun for everybody enjoying the time trial. It's a very popular event to get out and see, because you see each rider individually. Axel Merckx looking very comfortable, one of the taller riders in the main field.
Little chance there to see Merckx's gear shifts just under his thumbs. Keeps his profile position going well. They don't go around corners quite so well here. They tend to lean rather. See a little bit of a rock there. These are awkward chicanes for time trial bikes. They're only good for going in straight lines, really. Back to Sandy Cassar, 151. No change at the finishing line, where we now have 94 riders finished. There's the Breton flag and the French flag. Chris Horner is in with a great ride, 65 minutes. Just about 12th place still for him. The other big boys are still to go, and there is the current standing for you, and that's the man with the best time. He sits second, Lang.
Teamwork wins races.
There is Lance Armstrong and his U.S. Postal Service cycling teammates.
And there's a crash in the postal team. There's a touch of wheels. Two riders are down here.
Armstrong giving instructions, slow down, let's get back together.
This is a brave decision or a silly one. We'll find out. Armstrong bringing his team home to the line. New best time. That is absolutely unbelievable.
Look at the line and the organization of the blue train. This is utter perfection. Oh, look at that smile. It's incredible. As wide as the Pacific Ocean.
This is the team now looking as one unit. This is Discovery in full flight.
This will be the third win in 3 years.
The fastest ever time trial in the history of the event.
Brought to you by Trek Bicycle's new Equinox TTX 9.9, equipped with Bontrager wheelworks and components.
LL Bean gear. If it lives up to our test, you can be sure it will live up to yours. For a free catalog of everything you need for fall, call us or shop now at llbean.com.
OLN serves up the return of Pete Sampras in the network premiere of World Team Tennis, a unique and exciting format featuring the best players in the world, head-to-head, team-to-team, and leading up to exclusive coverage of the championship match in August.
It's World Team Tennis on OLN.
July 16th, Pete Sampras and the Newport Beach Breakers take on the 5-time WTT champs, Sacramento Capitals. World Team Tennis, presented by Advanta. July 16th at 11:30, only on OLN.
Maybe it's time to upgrade. Upgrade to Comcast digital cable with HBO and Stars for $49.99 a month for 3 months. more channels, more movies, more music. Just call 1-800-COMCAST today. Comcast Digital Cable. It's Comcastic.
Wish shaving didn't take so long? Well, now it doesn't have to. Introducing the Beard Reaper 8000.
Oh my, looks sharp.
It is razor sharp.
Oh my.
There are smarter ways to save time. Sign up for Comcast high-speed internet for just $29.99 a month for 6 months. At ridiculously quick speeds, it's way faster than DSL and dial-up. Sign up today and get professional installation. Just call 1-800-COMCAST. Comcast high-speed internet. It's Comcastic.
Yes, he won stage 2, he won stage 4, and yesterday he won stage 6. As we look at the former world road race champion, the visage there of Laurent Brochard, the man that used to have shoulder-length hair, had himself a haircut for the Tour de France this time around. He's won stages of the Tour in the past, sitting 42nd at this minute in this race. A minute and 2 seconds behind the leader, who is still, of course, Tom Bonen, who is a sprinter, and he will be the last man to start today, which will be a little bit invidious for him, I think. There's the standings, they haven't changed. Still Lang is on top with a tremendous performance. Anyway, as we look here over the shoulder of Sandy Cassar, let's go to now the Pennzoil Platinum Performance moment. Well, of course, this is the day of the sprinters, the week of the sprinters rather, and Robbie McEwen is at the top of the pile. He did so well. He won stage 2, had a little day out, then he won stage 4, and then when just as they all thought he was getting a bit tired, this was stage 6 yesterday as he marches forward, and he is really riding better than we've ever seen him. He's now won as many stages as last year in the Tour de France, and that is our Pennzoil Platinum Performance moment. Well, Robbie will probably go for more stage wins before the finish once we return to flatter roads, maybe even tomorrow, who knows. This is Axel Merckx settling in nicely at 16.5 kilometres. Lang still leads with that 1 hour, 2 minutes, 47 seconds from Larsen, the Swedish time trial champion. That's his first real big win on his new Pro Tour team, Française de Jeu. As we now look at Axel Merckx, I'm hearing news from the organisation today that the World Pro Tour teams, they've now accepted that the Tour de France and the Tour of Italy and the Tour of Spain will never become part of the Pro Tour circuit, and they've reached an agreement to exclude these events from the Pro Tour. They wanted, of course, the race to be in the Pro Tour, and the organisers didn't want to be part of that Pro Tour, and that will also apply to the classic races like Liège-Bastogne-Liège and Paris-Roubaix.
And Paris Tours.
And Paris Tours.
Tour of Lombardy as well, because they're part of the organisation of the Giro d'Italia. So that's something that will continue to carry on. Axel Merckx here, looking fairly aerodynamic. He's rocking the top half of his body a fraction. And we really do have to wait till the latter part of the afternoon to see all the big stars coming out to play. David Miller from Scotland starts at 2 minutes past 4 o'clock. He will be looking at, I think, Phil, at probably a top 10 finish, and that I think will satisfy him. He finished 14th in the opening day prologue, 17th in the prologue, currently 14th overall.
Well, this is the sprinter Luca Paolini here, who is riding very well on the road. Hasn't quite had the rewards he might have got in the big sprint finishes. He hasn't won a stage, or actually hasn't even looked like getting up to win a stage, although the boys have taken him to the line in good shape. But it hasn't happened. He's had no wins this year after his great start to the season when he was third in Milan-San Remo. Meanwhile, downtown outside the team bus here, CSC are warming up. Dave Zabriskie, Bobby Julich, boys who need to do good rides today. Zabriskie, of course, well, he holds the record for the fastest ever event. But they don't actually officially record it in the statistics because it was less than 20 kilometres, and it wasn't a prologue, it was in fact stage 1 of the Tour de France. But even so, Paul, it was the fastest average speed ever seen in the Tour.
Well, it's locked right in there between Greg LeMond's performance and, of course, Chris Boardman's performance. Boardman rode the fastest ever prologue time trial, and that was over just 7 kilometers, an average speed of 55 kilometers an hour.
Yes, well, that is absolutely flying, but Dave's been better than that now as we continue here with the start of Thomas Lundqvist, who is the road race champion of Sweden. Gets the countdown in his little start house. They don't know heroics when they go down that ramp. It can be a bit daunting for the newcomers to the tour. Then they kick hard once they make the start. He'll be chased by the champion of Holland today, road race champion of Holland, Michael Boga. It's funny how the coincidences work out, isn't it? These riders starting in the total reverse order of their standings in the Tour de France today. Lundqvist is the 132nd rider to go of the 171 left in the race. And 98 have reached the finish. Lang remains on top. Now then, I hope you're enjoying taking part in our Saab Watch and Win sweepstakes competition. Don't forget, log on to olntv.com/fly to the finish. The watchword today, and let's hope it's the winner by the end of it, is Landis. That's the watchword. And by coincidence, we're looking at one of Landis's teammates in action now. This is Axel Merckx underway on the Phonak team iShares. iShares will be the sole sponsor next year. Phonak are saying that since their entry into sponsorship, they have had a 75% recognition factor of their products around Europe. So that has been a well worthwhile venture for Phonak in the sport of cycling. So let's have a look how we stand. 1:2:47. Lang, he's got 97 riders behind him immediately. Larsen, Postuma, Peña and Grabsch. There has been no change in that for quite a while. Anyway, pen and paper's out. So we'll give you the answer after the break, of course. This is our Subway Tour trivia now. It's 20 years since Greg LeMond won his first tour in 1986. What piece of bicycle equipment is he most famous for introducing? Ankle socks, B, bike lube, C, aerodynamic handlebars, or is it D, training wheels? It's easy, that one. We'll see you after the break.
Saab was founded by 16 aircraft engineers. Their spirit lives on. Introducing the all-new Saab 97X. Once you've built jets, you don't build just another SUV. Saab, born from jets. Take flight in the 97X SUV for under $39,500.
The German word for safe is sicher. The Portuguese word for firewall is muro de fogo. The Chinese word for password is mima. My company's in 17 countries now, and I can say secure in every one of them.
Dynamic networking from AT&T identifies security threats before they're problems, so Jane's confidence grows right alongside her company. The new AT&T, your world delivered.
I want to ride. I want to ride. I want to ride. I want to ride.
I know. Let's go.
The full line of fun and reliable CRFs from Honda. Everyone wants to ride. For monthly payments as low as $39, visit relief.honda.com or ask your Honda dealer about Red Hot Summer Relief.
Every night, OLN brings you the Tour Enhanced. See today's stage with commentary by Alan Bob, extra features and analysis, and more. The Tour de France Enhanced Prime, tonight at 8 p.m. Brought to you by Capital One. OLN Survivor Wednesdays returns with an earth-shaking season. Brace yourself for Survivor Vanuatu Islands of Fire. The gender war is about to explode. Survivor Wednesdays Vanuatu begins July 26th at 7 p.m. on OLN.
Do you really need a titanium driver? That magnesium frame spinning reel? A 60-inch screen?
Do you really need a motor oil that protects for 15,000 miles?
Darn right.
You deserve the best of the best. Mobil 1 Extended Performance. Advanced technology, proven anti-wear protection, guaranteed for 15,000 miles.
Mobil 1 Extended Performance.
The oil that's changing oil.
Well, there we are. Welcome back. And we asked you the question, what part of equipment did Greg LeMond make famous in the Tour de France? Well, in 1986, it was the aerodynamic handlebars. It was, in fact, how he won that race by 8 seconds in 1989. Greg is back. The busy little town down there, the outskirts of Rennes. This is Saint-Grégoire. The riders are zooming out to that space-style start house at 2-minute intervals, and then not zooming to the finish quick enough because Lang is still there as the leader, and we've now had 101 riders of the 171 arrive at the finish. So that's the worst he can finish now, is 101st. He's got 1:2:47. Larson is 29 seconds slower. Postuma is 40 seconds slower. They're big margins, really. This is Stefano Garzelli in the start house now, former winner of the Giro d'Italia. He's got his favourite helmet on here, Paul, Stefano Garzelli.
Well, Garzelli has banked a lot on the Tour de France here this afternoon, former winner of the Giro d'Italia, and he decided not to ride the Giro this afternoon to concentrate on riding well in the Tour de France. He hasn't really shown very much so far, but then I have to say none of the other great contenders have either. They've all been fairly quiet. Garzelli is currently 37th overall, 58 seconds in arrears, but he can put in a very good time trial, and that's probably what he's looking for today, to try and pull himself up into a top 10 position.
Well, Paul, I'm just noticed that Astolosa has gone through, the AG2R rider at the first check with a new best time. Well, only by tenths of a second quicker than Chavanel. Let's hope he has a bit more staying power as he continues towards the second check. He's gone through also in 20 minutes 33 seconds, marginally quicker than Chavanel.
Well, Astolosa was the rider who, in fact, almost caused the surprise on the race into Valkenburg, because he got caught just as the riders started to go up the finishing climb of the Kauberg.
And the dazzling back wheeler of Luca Paolini as he continues. He's a bit of a sprinter, really, so he's not going to put too much pressure. Oh, sorry, Stefano Garzelli we're looking at here, Paolini's teammate and indeed team leader, as we expect a good time out of him today because he's concentrating on a good place in this year's Tour de France. Turned down a ride in the Tour of Italy because of it. Time for us to move on now and enjoy some more words from Lance Armstrong with our Lance On, and this time he's on Johan Brunel, his boss.
No, I think Johan's already adjusted to life after me. I mean, he emails me all the time or sends me messages all the time about how nice it is. It's so nice without you. I'm like, dude, thanks. But he knows that, I mean, when the crowds are smaller outside the bus, he can step out and talk to friends, and he doesn't have to worry about a bunch of swarmy journalists around that are trying to figure something out. So he likes that part of it, but how can you argue with his record? I mean, okay, 7 tours aside, I mean, he's crafted and built a team that's won a Giro, that's won one or two Vueltas. I mean, the guy's only been doing his job for 8 years, and yet he's got 8 or 9 or 10 big tour victories. And that's all his doing. I mean, he's the guy who came along and said, Lance, you can do it. And here's how I think you can do it. Let's not forget, I mean, all of this stuff that we implemented was his idea. The idea of going to the mountains and previewing everything and saying, listen, you don't know them, you've got to go learn them. That was Johan's idea. Picking up a guy like Salvadelli saying, you know what, I think that guy's got a big engine. I think he still has results in his legs. That was him. And a guy like Harris leading him to Vuelta victories. I mean, he's the best in the business. A lot of people give credit to these other guys, like a Reese or like a Sainz. Forget it. There's nobody like Brunel. End of discussion.
Yeah, you have it. Inspired by the man himself. And don't forget to visit the website at wearyellow.com. By the way, Johan Brunel, Lance was talking about, finished 7th in the Tour de France in 1993. He did wear the yellow jersey in 95, and he won 2 stages in his career. That completes his profile as we now look at Iban Mayo. Iban needs to do a good ride today. We think he's sitting on some good form, which he'll unleash in the mountains. but to stay in touch with the leaders, he's got to pull out something special, and it's not too bad at the moment for him because he's not a great time trial rider. He'll have to limit his losses to the big hitters today, and they've got a chance to distance him, which they need to do because he might outclimb them this year when we get down into the Pyrenees. 40th place on the best time at this point is still Gustav Larsson. This is the second point on the course at 36.5 kilometers. Determination. This is Damiano Cunego heading up towards the finish. We'll see what he does when we get there. This looks like Floyd Landis warming up. They are still to come, all those 4 Americans. I'm as excited as I've ever been in this year's time trialing stage of the Tour de France. There's the leader still there, and that is Sebastian Lang. We'll take a break, come back and join us with all of the action ahead.
Real shooters, real rules, real cash. The world's greatest players, Hall of Famers and hustlers battle it out for the richest payday in the history of the sport. Over $1 million in prize money. But to rack up that kind of cash, they better bring their 8 game.
Come on, you country redneck.
It's the IPT King of the Hill 8-ball shootout 2-hour season finale. Sunday at 6 Eastern, only on OLN.
It's showtime.
After battling the elements for 128 years, our wood stains can handle pretty much anything. Cabot, our performance is legendary.
Somewhere between 2 highways, there was a really good station. Somewhere between breakfast and lunch, there was a roadblock. Somewhere between the kids and the grandkids, there was a second childhood. And somewhere between where you are and where you're going, there's a Super 8. See you along the way. Get more rewards with Trip Rewards at Super 8.
Drive to Rewards at Super 8 and you can win a hot Chevy Uplander. For details, visit super8.com.
Saturday, July 15th on Oxygen, Monique is back with the biggest beauty revolution ever. If you want to live large, enter Monique's Fat Chance Sweepstakes.
Log on to oxygen.com for your chance and win big.
The lucky grand prize winner and a guest will fly to L.A., experience a one-of-a-kind beauty boot camp, and have dinner with Monique.
Watch Monique's Fat Chance on Comcast.
Call today to get the $49.99 a month for 3 months.
Smiling. Blow me a kiss. What are you, high? We got nothing to worry about.
Get HBO on demand. It's the best thing to happen to TV since HBO.
Welcome back. The beauty of Brittany today. The sun has come out on cue. The clouds are blown away. The sky is getting blue. These are some of the 210,000 inhabitants of the city of Rennes, which is the capital of the department of Brittany. But most of them, I think, are out on the course now. No change while you've been away. Lang is still there. 62 minutes, 47 seconds. Larson is second at 29 seconds. Postuma for Holland is third at 40 seconds. And no further fast men going through the checks at the moment, but we'll see. This looks like we've got one rider coming up here. Looks like the finish. I thought it was... I thought it is indeed Paginos who's coming up, the big man who's really the pacemaker out on the course. 1:5:43 and counting, just an average time for him. This isn't his job. His job is just to get through this today and live to fight another day for the team. He's one of the big helpers on the team. Milram's Eric Zabel, who's had his 36th birthday on this course a couple of days ago, and he's still riding high overall. He's 33rd overall. There he goes as Zabel makes his start on one of those strange bikes. Let's go and have a look at what Discovery bikes look like, because Craig Hummer was down there earlier today looking at the bikes.
The Trek TTX Equinox is the new time trial bike for the Discovery Channel racing team. Lance actually used a prototype of this bike in last year's Tour de France, and this is the second generation of a bike that has been under the team since the year 2000. Now, after the 2005 Tour, Trek did their homework, and in conjunction with AMD high-powered computers, came up with a virtual design. They then took all that work on the computer and applied it in the real world through testing in the San Diego wind tunnel. The result? Larger cross sections now make for a lighter and stiffer frame. And as always, all Trek's bikes are handmade in Wisconsin, but the bottom line for the riders is this bike is more efficient while maintaining all of the aerodynamics of the previous models. And here at the Tour, that combo can mean precious milliseconds saved and the difference between winning and losing.
Oh, aren't those bikes beautiful? Well, we've just seen the arrival of Padronos. He's sitting 13th at the moment, 2 minutes 57 seconds off the lead of Sebastian Lang. Beautiful sleek machines. As we go back out on course again now with Ivan Mayo. Just well inside the hour for Mayo here. Heads up now to 46 kilometers. He's just going to hang on and hope he gets a reasonable time, I think, as we go quickly down. Carlos Sastre should be getting ready inside that start house just now. And really, he could well be the leader of CSC once we go down to the mountains, because he was to be the #1 helper to Ivan Basso, who, of course, is not here anymore. So Sastre will go, and he's not a bad time trial rider, but he'll need a good one today to take him down to the Pyrenees in a couple of days' time.
Yes, he wants to keep high up in the overall classification. He's a very good climber. Won stages of the Tour de France in the mountains, ahead of Lance Armstrong. But for him, it's important to try and show to the team that he's got the ability to ride high in the overall classification, and that has to be done with a very good individual time trial here this afternoon.
Good steady riding by Mayo, whose next stop is the finishing line now, as he doesn't pass through anywhere near the leaderboard at the time checks. He is a pure climber, Iban Mayo, but he has given us every reason to feel he's finding the form of a few years ago when we saw him as a real threat in the Tour de France. And Iban Mayo now in his 5th Tour de France. He had a 6th place finish back in 2003, but really 60th last year wasn't very good for him. His greatest moment, I think, came, Paul, when he won at Alpe d'Huez in 2003. That was his best year.
It was. He had a terrible year last season. This year he got himself a victory on that climb of La Toussuire, which we will go over in the last week of this year's tour, and that's when people started to talk about the renaissance of Iban Mayo. He's a very good climber. He will be dramatically supported when we get down into the Pyrenees, and I think here he's just battling to limit his losses, because like a lot of the Basque and Spanish riders, they are not great time trialists. Their forte is in the big mountain passes.
Yeah, his position's not a little bit ungainly as well, but he's doing his best. So as he continues on, Iban Mayo, we've now 106 riders finished, and Sebastian Lang is very happy with the situation at the moment. Well, here's big breaking news for you. And this September there'll be major changes here at OLN, because we're going to change our name to Versus, bringing you exclusive events you won't see anywhere else, like the Tour de France, the America's Cup, in-depth coverage of the Davis Cup. There'll be boxing, the PBR, and it's the only place to find weekly national coverage of the NHL. The network for athletes, for sportsmen, and for you, the fans, and anyone who's up for a challenge. This September, OLN becomes Versus. Let's have a look at the update in the standings. Not that there is any. Lang, Larson, Postuma, Pena, and Grabs. Been like that for about half an hour now. It won't stay like that, because the big men are warming up. See you in a moment.
Every night, OLN brings you the Tour enhanced. See today's stage with commentary by Alan Bob, extra features and analysis, and more. The Tour de France Enhanced Prime, tonight at 8 p.m. Brought to you by Capital One. OLNTV.com is on tour and right in the middle of the Tour de France. Get instant and exclusive access to clips, photos, bios, and race routes, along with stage summaries and forecasts from our team of experts. OLNTV.com, your link to the Tour de France.
Subway Dinner Theatre presents The Unfed.
I smell a blockbuster. And for dinner, Subway restaurants. Try our delicious turkey breast with honey mustard and cucumber sandwich. Savory turkey, crisp veggies, and sweet honey mustard sauce.
Subway! Eat fresh!
Your life doesn't have one dimension. Neither should your beer. The rewarding taste of Michelob Ultra. Perfectly balanced and made for today. Live life to the ultra.
The sky's perfect blue. No cloud could spoil the view. It's from above that shows that we're in love.
Yeah, no, I gotta go. Yeah, I'm getting on.
I totally spaced on that one.
That was bad.
Let's just use your Capital One no hassle card.
Protect yourself with Capital One's low rates and great rewards.
I am so good.
What's in your wallet?
Welcome back. It's time trial day, the first big rendezvous for the superstars in this year's Tour de France. We're in Rennes, which is a sporting city. This is Denis Menchov, of the Russian rider, winner of the Tour of Spain last year on the disqualification of Roberto Heras, and the standings stay the same. We are running now into the last 26-27 riders. Levi Leipheimer will now be off the warm-up machine and waiting for his start. As we look at the colours here of the Rabobank rider Menchov, down in the start house now, we should see, in fact, Gilberto Simoni, and there he is, all in yellow. The same team that David Miller is now riding for. Miller will go 14th from the end. He's had a very good first week in his comeback year at the Tour de France, sits in 14th place, and he loves time trialing. Simoni makes his move.
29th overall, Gilberto Simoni, but I think this year he's come with a lot of dedication to ride a serious Tour de France, and why not get himself onto the podium? He's always had a hard time coming here, and there's a new time at the first time check, Phil. It's 16.5 kilometers covered.
There is, and it's Lundqvist of Sweden who really is riding well. He's only a youngster for FDJ, for Française des Jeux. 20.27, 6 seconds quicker than Astalosa and Chavanel. So that could give us an excellent time later on. Menchov himself has now made his start. It'll be interesting to see what he does. He's a pretty good time trialist too.
Well, you have to be a good time trialist if you win an event like the Vuelta a España. You have to be consistent. He's a very interesting character. He was brought onto Team Rabobank as the possible hope for a high finish overall. And in this year's Tour de France, who knows, he may well be a real dark horse when it comes to the mountains. Iban Mayo is actually starting to pick up the pace a fraction now. Look at his face here. He knows he has to try and make sure he doesn't lose too much time on a stage like this. A couple of years ago, he was regarded as a man who was quite possibly a future winner of the Tour de France, but to do that, to win the Tour, it's no good just being good in the mountains. You have to be good everywhere, on the flat stages, the time trials, and of course in the mountains as well.
Well, there's the situation at 16.5 kilometers. Lundqvist has now just come in. He was second in the Swedish Championships just before this Tour started. The man that beat him there, Larsen, is home with the second best time right now. So we'll see if there's a little bit of revenge on the cards between the two of them on today's time trial. Now, don't forget that it's an awful long way to go from that check, but Lundqvist is having a super tour, just over 22 years of age. He was only 22 in April, Paul, and he's the youngest man in the race.
Yep, he is the youngest rider in the race, and funnily enough, the two riders we were talking about, the two Swedish riders, Larsen and Lundqvist, they shared the Swedish national titles between them, because Larsen was the time trial champion and Lundqvist was the road race champion.
And in the other event, I think they finished second, so they swapped around. But today, of course, it was the man who's just finished, Larsen, who gets to wear the national jersey, because you can only wear the national colours in the event in which you are the champion.
It's going to be an interesting result, I think, to the time trial here this afternoon, Phil, because taking a poll of some of the journalists and some of the cyclists around the Tour as to just exactly who is going to win the Tour de France, nobody can put one name forward, and that's after a week of racing. Everyone says, well, it could be Landis, Leipheimer, Hincapie. Why not Denny Menchoff? Because after all, he's a winner of a Grand Tour. He was the winner of the Vuelta a España, and he's got a very strong team to help him out. But I really, if I had to put money down on the line, I couldn't put a name forward right now.
No, but at the end of the day, there'll be one or two brave souls will start putting names forward, and the odds will certainly change down at the bookmakers, because those that lose big time today are obviously going to go into the Pyrenees slightly disadvantaged. Michael Bogart, he'll go into the Pyrenees disadvantaged anyway, because he's a bit down the checks now at the moment.
Well, going back down to Iban Mayo, a lot of these riders, I think, will understand how important it is to ride a good individual time trial here this afternoon. Between 1991 and 1995, Miguel Indurain won the first time trial, the first long time trial, before the race went into the mountains, and then he went on to win the Tour de France as well. Jan Ullrich won the first time trial in 1998, but then he was beaten to the finish by Marco Pantani. But the year after that, Armstrong came out of the starting blocks, won the first long time trial, and then went on to win the Tour. Although he didn't win the first long time trial in 2002, that went to a man by the name of Santiago Botero. Armstrong only lost by a few seconds, but he did then go on to win the Tour.
Botero involved in the Operation Puerto, or at least his name is, though he denies any involvement whatsoever, decided to retire for the rest of the year once his team stopped him racing while the investigation is underway. He's gone back home, in fact, to Colombia. And here comes the man we'll see a lot of in the mountains, Iban Mayo. A little bit of a rise for him to get his climbing legs on, because after our stage here in Brittany tomorrow, the race flies down to the far end of the country for the next resumption of the Tour. So he's coming up the hill, no change on the leaderboard at all. Didier Rousse has gone through with the 5th best time now at 16.5 kilometers. That's a good start for him. Jose Azevedo, Team Discovery, he should be underway. This is the man who sits in 2nd place, Larsen, done a great ride, and Sebastian Lang, the other champion, except he's the German champion, he's got the best time. Well, what time is Levi Leipheimer going to do? He knows he can beat both of them, and they'll be with us in the start after these breaks. In fact, Leipheimer just about 3 minutes away from the off. We won't miss it.
One part of this concept car is already on the road. Michelin MX tires. Chosen by more luxury car makers to enhance the performance of their cars. Michelin, a better way forward.
The aerodynamic principles that keep a Saab jet in the air help the Saab 9.5 remain firmly on the ground. Introducing the new 260 horsepower Saab 9.5. Once you've built jets, you don't build just another car. Take flight in the newly redesigned 9.5 sedan for under $35,000.
Your engine knows what it wants. Pennzoil Platinum. Relearn what you know about synthetic at pennzoilplatinum.com.
Bicycle Village, the ultimate bike shop. Bicycle Village has Colorado's largest selection of bikes, from tandems to trikes to top-end bikes. All the best brands and the largest selection. Over 1,000 bikes set up and ready to ride from the brands you want, like Trek, Specialized, Raleigh, Lightspeed, and more. Only Bicycle Village offers same-day bike service to get you back on your bike quicker. Plus lifetime tunes and an unbeatable performance guarantee on every bike we sell. And we always guarantee the lowest prices. Bicycle Village, the ultimate bike shop.
they have been obscured by a mist of mythology.
They are hyper-violent. I mean, terrifying.
If you don't surrender, he's going to hack you to bits.
Pirate captain had authority only in time of battle.
Anne Bonny and Mary Read, two women who are pirates and flaunting their sex.
Pirates were cutthroats, murderers, thieves. They were enemies of all mankind.
True Caribbean Pirates, Sunday, July 9th at 8 p.m., as only the History Channel can bring you.
Welcome back, and you're just in time as he licks his lips. This is Levi Leipheimer. If you're watching OLN about 5 days ago, Leipheimer said, I can win this Tour de France. Well, the victory route starts right here, right now, in the start house in Saint-Grégoire, because this is the first big important time trial. Important because it is such a long time trial, 52 kilometers. It's a chance for a man who can race a time trial to get big time over his rivals, and Leipheimer can ride a very good time trial. So tense moments now. The clock has started the countdown for Levi Leipheimer. He's starting at 20 minutes to 4. Good time to start. Lots of oxygen in the air. Light breeze blowing. No change overall at all at the finish, where there's 114 riders in now. And I think if we can switch the finish, we might see the arrival of Iban Mayo. There he is. He's racing up towards the line. Not a good time for him. This is a man who's a real threat in the mountains, but look at the time to somebody like Sebastian Lang, giving away 5 minutes here. He could be losing, you know, as much as 8 minutes to riders like Leipheimer by the end of this day. There's no way he can reclaim all of that, even in the mountains of this year's Tour de France. So his tour for the win could be ending right here and now. 1:7:20 is what he's got, and 38th position at the moment. Back down, this is Gilberto Simoni himself. Not a great time trial, so he's won the Tour of Italy a couple of times. He's lost big time in the time trials, but he does climb a bit better than the other riders, so he made up it late. Oh, we're looking at the wheels here of, I suspect, Levi Leipheimer. There he is. Now, this is a big moment for Levi. You've got to settle in quickly, focus, tell yourself, I'm feeling good, I'm going great, because this is where they're starting the route to Paris and a likely victory trail, because these are the boys we're now talking about as the favourites to win the Tour de France in the next couple of weeks. Leipheimer currently 25th overall in the race.
Well, in about 18 minutes, he should reach the first time check. He's been in the saddle now for 2 minutes after he's come out of the starting gate, and that's where we get an indication as to how he's riding. Looks very good here, solid on the machine. Immediately as he came out of the starting gate, he got straight down into that aerodynamic position. Like most of the other riders here, Phil, they've been out and looked at the course. They see the course is not too technical. It's nice, good surface. No big climbs where you have to get out of the saddle and keep the gears rolling over. As we go a little bit further up the course here to see Gilberto Simoni dancing out of the saddle on the front end of the bars. Machine looks fairly nice here for him this afternoon, but he's a man who actually looks very good, Gilberto Simoni. I think he could be looking at putting in his best ever performance at the Tour.
Well, let's hope so. He's not a great time trial rider. Let's face it, we've seen huge leads when he's held the leader's jersey in the Giro d'Italia, sliced into by the better time trialers, but he does have a habit of getting big time in the mountains, so he can afford perhaps not to be quite so fast in the time trial. Not so sure about the quality of this field, though, whether he will live against them, because there's some great time trial riders today. Well, we've seen Levi Leipheimer make his start. Another American will be chasing him, Christian van der Velde on Team CSC. He'll start 2 minutes behind Leipheimer, and then goes Jaroslav Popovic. Van der Velde's on his way already. Popovic, that'll be an interesting one here. He needs a good time as well for Team Discovery.
Big question mark, Jaroslav Popovic. The interesting thing about Johan Brunel is he's been playing down all of his riders. He's played down Hincapie, played down Popovic today. They can't hide.
Absolutely right. Oh, I was looking at Levi now. He'll know by now just how he's feeling. There's the face of Jaroslav Popovic from Team Discovery. He can produce a good time trial. He knows just how important it is today. We don't know just who is the leader of Team Discovery, and it might well be based on who does the best time as to who becomes the leader as we head to the mountains. So he makes his start, sitting 23rd overall at the moment. Let's get the check at Hermitage. 36 kilometres. Rubiera continues to ride a very good time trial. And the slots in there. I'm not too sure where the line is. 12th, there we are. Minute 20 off the pace. So he's a bit down on the great ride by Sebastian Lang. All right, well, let's now have a look with Floyd Landis, don't forget, still to start, at our Bridgestone athlete profile.
With a 9th place finish in last year's Tour de France, American Floyd Landis is a clear contender for this year's yellow jersey. Already a dominating force in the spring races, Landis has proven that he has both the form and team support to rival any of this year's top contenders.
The beginning of the season has been much as I could have hoped for. Tour of California went quite well, and Paris-Nice also went equally as well. At this point, the team has a lot of confidence in me. It did a lot for my own confidence in myself, but I think more importantly, it's what it did for the team. It makes it easy for them to sacrifice for me when they know I can win.
Floyd, he made a big step from last year to this year. He grew up to a top leader, and it's a pleasure to see how the whole team grows like this.
I know Floyd's ups and downs. He'll be on that long list of people that they say can win the Tour.
Since his transition to Team Phonak in 2004, Landis is more motivated than ever, exemplifying the dedication of a champion and holding the reins firmly in his hand as team leader. Floyd Landis is no longer just another rider in the peloton, now prepared to face this epic race for his 5th year. He knows the strength it will take to come out as champion.
It's the hardest race in the world, and so you can be the best climber and the best time trialist, but if you can't stay focused and always stay in the front, then it doesn't make a difference. Tour de France, for some reason, has become the main focus of cycling, so any opportunity to wear the yellow jersey in the Tour would be a dream come true.
And that is our Bridgestone athlete profile, and Floyd Landis, of course, is yet to start. Here's some information for you. 30 years of age, and he is a great time trialing rider, so we can expect to see him do very well today. He's had a 9th place finish, his best finish in 2005, and he really is shooting at the top spot in Paris this time around. And we're looking at Merckx. He's at 36 kilometres. He's still riding up amongst the top 20 riders just now, which is a very good result for Axel. We're waiting now for the start of Bobby Julich. He must be getting close. Merckx going through, clock not yet stopping. When it does, it'll be just outside the top 20 now. Eric Zabel, by the way, has gone through the first check, not trying, 86th place, thinking of the sprints probably, as Merckx goes through in 21st position. Now, according to my watch, Paul, we're just about half a minute away from
Brand new
Julich.
time at 16.5 kilometres covered. In fact, Carlos Sastre has just gone through there in a time of 20 minutes and 22 seconds. Now, Sastre is not one of the great individual time trialists of the sport, so that is a very good indication of his form.
That's a great ride by Sastre, because he's maybe having to take over the mantle left vacant by Ivan Basso. And he was sent home the day before the Tour, don't forget. So now it could be up to Bobby Julich and Sastre. And there is Bobby in the start house, ready to rock and roll. I wonder if he's just been told Sastre's firing. It's his teammates and they're good friends. Sastre's got there in 2022. Now, if Sastre can get there in 2022, the likelihood is that Bobby Julich will be quicker than that, because this is Bobby's speciality. He won the prologue of Paris-Nice this year, a race which he's won overall in 2005. And he won the time trial in the Criterium International last year as well. Big 2-day race, and that gave him the overall victory in that event. So he does ride good time trials. He also won the Benelux Tour soon after the Tour de France last year. And again, he won the 7-stage time trial. That, by the way, was stage 7. Might be a lucky omen today, because this is stage 7 of the Tour de France. Looking at the legs of Jaroslav Popovic, but very much one of the American boys in this race, because he rides on Team Discovery. He's chasing that time of Sastre at the moment. So as we're looking at Popovic going well here now, we're waiting for his first check. Merckx has gone through all of the checks now. He's bound for the finish. Noval has just arrived at the finishing line, Team Discovery, only 82nd place for him, so he can go to the showers. Lang is still sitting on top, and we have had 117 riders have finished. This is now Levi Leipheimer settling in. We can't wait to see his time at 16.5 kilometres. That's in case the commentators don't recognise him. I wonder why they put the names on that bicycles. But Leipheimer now is charging towards the finish and doing extremely well. He looks settled, he looks concentrated. He looks as though he might be firing today. Julik has started. The next man to go is Cyril Dessel of France. Zabriskie is now 2 for about 6.5 minutes before David Zabriskie starts his charge for the line. So he's a long way behind Leipheimer on the road. No change at all in the overall situation. Still Lang, Larsen, Postuma and Pena. But Big Dave is going to come out of the start house next. And we're expecting something special from the fastest rider in a time trial in any Tour de France gone by. We'll take a break.
The 2006 Tour de France on OLN is brought to you by Star Motorcycles. We build it, you make it your own. And by your Trek dealer, your local Tourmania headquarters. Come in daily to catch Tourmania and get huge savings on bikes and accessories. And by LLB, official outfitter of OLN.
When we set out to build an entirely new type of motorcycle, we looked everywhere for inspiration, except to convention. The 113 cubic inch fuel-injected Star Roadliner. We build it, you make it your own. Test ride one today at participating Yamaha dealers. Now get a 5-year warranty plus low 5.9% financing on any Roadliner or Stratoliner.
Play the Tourmania Scratch and Win sweepstakes at your local Trek dealer for a chance to win one of thousands of neat prizes, including a ride with Lance, and get a healthy dose of savings on bikes and accessories. Play every day at TrekBikes.com.
Thanks, Trek!
LL Bean gear. If it lives up to our test, you can be sure it will live up to yours. For a free catalog of everything you need for fall, call us or shop now at llbean.com.
Ingeniously designed to help protect the things that need protecting. Energy-absorbing ACE body structure, standard on the all-new Civic. Only from Honda.
This is Duralast, the alternator built to exceed the need. Built with heavy-duty components to perform under extreme conditions, engineered to surpass original equipment standards for longer life. Built with the technology to withstand high electrical demands, and backed by a nationwide lifetime warranty. Get the alternator built to exceed the need. Only at AutoZone.
Welcome back. Time trial day in the Tour de France. 18 riders left to start. 120 have finished. We're looking at Levi Leipheimer, and it's status quo as it has been for an hour now. Lang still leads over Larsen and Postuma as we swing down here. This lying in the road is Bobby Julik. Now, what on earth has happened? Well, we can find out. Julik just completely lost traction, and look at that. He has walloped that pavement, and he is quite badly injured. That was a terrible crash there. Total misjudging of the corner. Lost traction on his bike. Well, Leipheimer came round this same corner about 8 minutes ago. He made it okay, but Julik here has gone down. Now, if you remember, in 1999, it was stage 8, the time trial, and Bobby crashed out of that on that occasion. That is a very, very heavy fall. Hand down first, but then his hip, and then he walloped the side of the paving here, and it looks as though he's hurt both his hip and his hand. Well, that is a great shame, but it's not looking good here. Bobby Julik being helped off the road by the doctor, who fortunately, one of the doctors anyway, was behind him. Well, that was a bit of luck. Sitting 17th, he finished 17th overall in the 2005 Tour de France. He, of course, finished 3rd in the Tour de France back in 1998. Crashed out on the stage 8 time trial back in 1999. Everybody trying to get, I think they're trying to call an ambulance up here. They must warn the next rider through, who will be Cyril Dessel, who comes 2 minutes later. As we switch back up the road now to look at Levi Leipheimer, who's yet to reach the first check, where Denis Menchov has now bettered Carlos Sastra's time at the first check by 15 seconds. That's an enormous ride for him, 20:07. There is the calm and passive face of the next American to leave the start house, David Zabriskie, who goes at 4 minutes to 4, looking quite casual, quite relaxed, licking his lips, and the thought perhaps of a big day coming his way. Just look at him here. Concentration, the name of the time trial game. Shut everything out of that mind, even the crowd. This is going to be a big day for Zabriskie. One has that feeling. Let's hope that he gets round that corner, which has just taken out his teammate there, Bobby Julik. They're on the same CSC team, remember. So Zabriskie makes his move, probably unaware, Paul, that his teammate Bobby Julik is still sat on the side of the road, and let's hope that Julik gets back in the race. But Zabriskie now, only one objective, that's to win the time trial. He's not a Tour de France winner, but he certainly can win time trials.
Well, if he wins this time trial here this afternoon, he's got a very good chance of taking the overall lead, because he's actually only 18 seconds behind George Hincapie in the overall standings, 22 seconds behind Michael Rogers. It's going to be a very important day for him. But news is coming in over the airwaves that Bobby Julik has got into the ambulance, Phil, and I don't think he will be continuing his road in the Tour de France. And just like stage 8 in the Tour de France in 1999, he crashed out in the individual time trial.
And that's the only time before today he's never finished the Tour. Almost identical crashes, separated by a day and a few years, of course. The 2 times he's left the Tour, accidents in a time trial.
Very sad day for him, and a sad Tour for him, because he had been promoted to the mantle of leader.
And a huge loss to CSC, because after Ivan Basso, a non-starter, no replacement, really Julik would want to ride alongside Carlos Sastre in the mountains. Sastra's lost a big ally now.
Lost a huge ally, as Levi Leipheimer can't be very far away from that first time check.
Well, there's Leipheimer. Now look, this is an incredible ride here, I think, by Levi. The best time at the 16.5 kilometer check is 20:07 by Denis Menchov, and we're getting the arrival here. There's a sad sight, that really is. As we're watching now into the ambulance, goes Bobby Julik, and the crowd, you can hear them applauding. Oh, well, how sad that is. So one major American player out of the Tour in the time trial. That's the situation down at the finish, unchanged still, as it has been for a long time now. I think it'll be reshaped shortly, though, because we've got Denis Menchov on 20:07, setting the park alight at 16.5 kilometers. We'll come back for Levi Leipheimer's time, but this, without doubt, is the saddest picture we've seen of the Tour de France today. Bobby Julik down and out.
For 7 years, one man ruled the roads of France. But now, his reign has ended, and the battle for his throne is about to begin. Who can follow a legend and create his own? Who can conquer the mountains and blaze through the 2006 continues tomorrow live at 8:30 a.m. only on
blue, no cloud could spoil the view. It's
flavors that we're in love. Try new cheesy chicken mashed potato bowls from KFC. Freshly prepared with our famous mashed potatoes, layered with sweet corn, all white meat crispy chicken, and topped with our signature gravy and 3-cheese blend. Great flavors come together at KFC.
Free yourself from big phone bills. With Comcast Digital Voice, you get unlimited local and long distance, plus 12 popular calling features, while saving more than 20% over Quest. And it's only $39.95 a month for Comcast customers. Comcast Digital Voice. It's Comcastic. Switch to Comcast Digital Voice risk-free and get all your Comcast services on one bill.
Welcome back. This is the tranquility of the narrow back streets of Rennes, whereas just outside of Rennes, on the outskirts of the city, chaos reigns here with the time trial today. If you're just joining us, with sad news I have to reveal is that Bobby Julich out of the Tour de France, crashing very early on after his start in the time trial on a left-hand bend. We're looking now at Andreas Kloden, once got on the podium in second place in the Tour de France. The Lance Armstrong never really repeated that performance, but time is on his side. This is the white jersey leader of the Tour making his start. He lies 15th overall. This is Benoit Vongenart, and he's just made his start, well, as you can see, about a minute and a half ago. Looking at the leaderboard, unchanged completely, has been like that for an hour. And at the checks, Menchov is to arrive, but setting best time at the first check. We're now waiting for David Miller, and there he is in the start house. This is David's speciality. He won the 2003 World Time Trial title, then confessed to taking drugs under police interrogation, and as a result of that, hasn't raced since. Now, has he lost his time trial talent? We're about to find out.
Well, a big rendezvous for him. He was 17th in the opening day prologue. He's 14th overall at the start of the day, 41 seconds adrift. And if he wanted to get aerodynamic, I think he should have pulled that zip up just a fraction. But it will be interesting to see what sort of time he stops the clock at in 20 minutes time at the first time check.
Back out on course, this is Rubiera coming up now. He's been riding pretty much up amongst the leaderboard. He's still up amongst it, but it's not going to be a rocker of the overall situation at the finish, as Checho Rubiera on the Team Discovery squad heads up towards the line here. And he just remains a very good time trialist, but he'll be a strong man and ally to his teammates in the mountains.
He's a solid man, Checho Rubiera, but I wonder if he'll take a little bit of heart from the fact I've got a strange time coming through here at 16.5 kilometers covered, because the computer on the finish line is telling me that Levi Leipheimer has only gone through the first time check in 61st place, losing himself a minute and a half at that point.
Well, I'm as stunned as you are, Paul. That's exactly what it is saying. 1 minute, 32 seconds slower than Menchov in 16 kilometers. It can't be right, surely.
Well, fingers crossed. We don't have any other access to the information other than that is being provided to us by the race organization. They've been pretty close so far, but a minute and a half in 16 kilometers is a massive loss for Levi Leipheimer.
He certainly wasn't looking like he was going that slow. He looked very calm, cool, and collected. Well, we can only take what comes at us on our computer. Leipheimer 61st at 1 minute 32 is what it is saying, as Christophe Moreau is now back in the start house here. 13th overall in the Tour de France for him. 126 riders have finished, no change at all in the top 5 riders on the computer. But that time, very, very strange, because Christian van der Velde of the USA has gone through with the 11th best time, just 35 seconds off the lead. Now, I would have expected Leipheimer to have been at least that. Anyway, Christophe Moreau is underway. I'm sure it'll be all coming out in the wash, because I think the team management of Gerolsteiner will be equally as surprised as we are at that time published by Leipheimer. Well, let's carry on and remind you of our Saab Watch and Win sweepstakes. Remember, go to olntv.com, fly to the finish, and there you will find today's code word, Landis. And Landis, by the way, isn't far from starting now. We're concentrating here on Andreas Kloden. Remember, sad news, out of the Tour de France today, Bobby Julich. He just got started and misjudged the bend, crashed, and has gone to hospital. So still Kloden on our cameras at the moment. Well, second place overall in the Tour de France in 2004. He crashed out of the race, by the way, last year, Andreas Kloden. Now we're waiting for Cadel Evans to make his start. He'll be next to go behind Christophe Moreau, who has gone. Cadel Evans is on fire in the time trials this year. He's had a win, which gave him the win also in the Tour of Romandy, and he got second in the stage of the Tour of Switzerland, which gave him a high finish in that. Back with the white jersey here, Paul, of Benoit Vonrenard, and there is Cadel Evans.
Well, a very important individual time trial for Cadel. You can't see into his eyes here, but I know in his mind he is exceptionally concentrated for this time trial this afternoon. He's really improved his time trialing over the last 2 seasons, and this year he is looking like a man very capable of winning the Tour de France and at least definitely finishing on the podium.
Well, so far he's done something exceptional. He had a great first week and he's 12th overall, and he finished 8th overall last year. But we have to remember he got most of that time in one breakaway near the end, where a little bit of enthusiasm was probably waning on the part of the other riders, so he's got to prove himself this time out. Anyway, Cadel is riding good and he's underway. He lives out on the Bellarine Peninsula outside of Geelong, where he's got a new property. I think it's Barwon Heads. He lives with his wife, and but of course during the European summer this is where you'll find him in the Tour de France. There's Vonrenard. Popovic has gone through, Paul, the first check at 12th place, 36 seconds. But you know the time of Christian van der Velde, he was 11th, just 30-odd seconds off the race lead. And I can't believe he's taken a minute out of Leipheimer. That's not possible.
Well, you never know. Could be nerves, could be a problem, could have been a mechanical incident that we didn't see. Let's not forget, if we hadn't been right on Bobby Julich when he went down, we wouldn't have known about that either at the first time check.
That's a good
point.
That's
the luck of actually being right behind an accident when it happens. And I can only believe that Levi Leipheimer must have had a mechanical incident. That information not being fed to us for the moment. We'll keep on the story.
Still staying here with Andreas Kloden. 2006 Tour de France underway now, as we have seen Bobby Julich lead the Tour again in a time trial today. All right, well, let's remember, go to olntv.com for the latest updates on the Tour de France. That's where you'll find everything you need to know. We'll give you plenty of analysis, recaps. You'll find the results there, track contenders, and exclusive rider forecasts. olntv.com is your link to the cyclism and the Tour de France. Back into the start house here now. And this is our man who jumped away 2 days running, lost the first time, won the second one, which was down in Valkenburg. Matthias Kessler, 11th overall, just 37 seconds off Mario Jean. I don't know quite what to expect from him, Paul. He might do a good time trial, this rider.
Well, he might take note of the performance of his teammate Eddie Mazzolini, who went through the first time check at second best time, just 8 seconds off the time, of course, of Denny Menchov. We may well see a re-emergence here of T-Mobile, who, like Team CSC, have got to battle back to turn the tables around after they had their top men taken away in that drug scandal 24 hours before the start of the Tour. Andreas Kloden, an amazing rider. The first time we really talked about him was when he won Paris-Nice when he was a young professional. We thought this is going to be a star of the future. Then he disappeared. Then all of a sudden he came back and popped up with a second place in the Tour de France. This is David Miller.
Yeah, Miller is starting behind Kloden, of course, by about 8 minutes down the road. Miller settling into his rhythm here. Well, from where we sit, of course, they look as though they're riding pretty well, but we're still a little bit stunned by the ride so far of Levi Leipheimer, losing 1.5 minutes at the first check, apparently. As Miller continues here, shortly to go. Let's have a look at the standings. There they are, same as ever. 127 riders have finished now. Lang is feeling very pleased with himself, and well he might today. Now, we've seen a lot of riders start today from America. Sadly, it's cost us dearly. Bobby Julich is a rider who is out. This is the start of Levi Leipheimer. We remain with a big question mark over his first check. David Zabriskie yet to reach that first check. Can't be far away. Ouch. I'm afraid that this has cost Bobby Julich his place in the Tour. But for the others still to start, they are big names. George Hincapie will go very shortly now, and Floyd Landis will also go. Two big names looking for the win today. We'll be back shortly.
Saab was founded by 16 aircraft engineers. Their spirit lives on. The turbocharged Saab 9.3 Sport Sedan with an estimated 31 miles per gallon highway. Once you've built jets, you don't build just another car. Saab, born from jets. Take flight in the 9.3 Sport Sedan for under $27,000.
Our workday never ends. I'm not saying our people don't go home or have lives, but ending our workday here doesn't stop our best thinking from moving forward someplace else.
Dynamic networking from AT&T enables collaboration around the world and the clock, so Allen's company is always ahead of market demands, schedules, and the competition. The new AT&T, your world delivered.
Do you really need a titanium driver? That magnesium frame spinning reel? A 60-inch screen? Do you really need a motor oil that protects for 15,000 miles?
Darn right.
You deserve the best of the best. Mobil 1 Extended Performance. Advanced technology, proven anti-wear protection, guaranteed for 15,000 miles.
Mobil 1 Extended Performance.
The oil that's changing oil.
OLN serves up the return of Pete Sampras in the network premiere of World Team Tennis. A unique and exciting format featuring the best players in the world, head-to-head, team-to-team. And leading up to exclusive coverage of the championship match in August.
It's World Team Tennis on OLN.
July 16th, Pete Sampras and the Newport Beach Breakers take on the five-time WTT champs, Sacramento Capitals. World Team Tennis, presented by Advanta. July 16th at 11:30, only on OLN.
When I first tried this new shaving cream, Edge Active Care, I wasn't too sure about it. It wasn't what I was used to. But now I really like it. I mean, since I started shaving with Edge Active Care, I've noticed a change in the look and feel of my skin. And you know what they say, change is great. It's so great.
Your engine knows what it wants. Pennzoil Platinum. Relearn what you know about synthetic at pennzoilplatinum.com.
Welcome back. We're looking at David Miller here from Great Britain. Just made his start in the time trial. Again, no change overall. The top five remain the same. But I can tell you that Marcus Foten has reached 16.5 kilometers with the best time, 20 minutes and 6 seconds. So he's made a great start as we now go to the start house. And there is Floyd Landis ready to go. So Floyd now concentrating. Still no further news on Leipheimer. We're waiting for him to get through at 16.5 at 36 kilometers. Floyd Landis now, all he wants to do is think of how well he can ride this time trial. The countdown, he's away. Floyd Landis launches 8th overall after stage 6 in the Tour de France. 36 small seconds off the maillot jaune of the race. He is on fire this year, not just 2 individual time trial wins. He has won 3 major stage races around the world. Floyd Landis is off and running. As we switch now to a man who's running extremely well just now, Denny Menchov. Now, has he got to this check a little bit better than Carlos Sastre did? Has he held on to his pace? He's still challenging the time of Larson, and I've got a feeling he might survive. It's a long way to where we stopped the clock, but he's still got a few seconds on his tide here. Last man to go through here was Oscar Pereiro. He went through with the 11th best time. Menchov running at the clock now at 44.53. I think this might be a new best time by Menchov. Shortly, it's only a few seconds left. There is the banner, and he's got just on the best time here. But no, he's got it. 44.53. Well, Menchov, Paul, has taken the best time by half a second, that's all.
Well, I tell you what, there's a new best time crackling over race radio, Phil, as we speak, because Andreas Kloden has just come through with the best time at that point. 19 minutes and 59 seconds. This rider is really remarkable. He's either at the top of his game or he's off his game. And he has got an incredible time here, almost 6 seconds faster than Marcus Foten.
Yes, and that was only a couple of minutes before Foten. Foten went through, and then Kloden has come through, and he's the first man inside 20 minutes at the 10.5 mile point, or the 16.5 kilometers. And so that's a fantastic ride by Andreas Kloden. A little bit of a surprise, I must admit. 7 seconds quicker than Foten, 8 seconds quicker than Menchov. And in Menchov, again, although he's got the best time, he seems to be slowing down a little bit on the course. This is Paolo Savadelli, one of Team Discovery's big names. A lot of people think he won't be the man chosen to lead the Tour for Team Discovery, but we'll see, because he's certainly the man of the pass. He's won the Tour of Italy.
Well, you know, he can produce a very good individual time trial. He's spent a lot of time with Team Discovery getting himself into an aerodynamic position. One of the reasons he wanted to come across to Team Discovery was because he felt his weakness was the time trial, and he's used their technology to get him just that little bit more aerodynamic. Menchov, by the way, has just gone through the second time test check with the best time, and that's a time of 44 minutes and 53 seconds, which is almost exactly the same time as Larson. So once again, somebody has started quickly and is slowing down towards the end.
That's what it looks like. We're looking at Michael Rogers now, for the past 3 years, the world time trial champion. And he lies in 3rd place overall in the Tour de France. The 2 riders behind him, Robin McEwen, another Australian, and of course Tom Bonen, the leader, are not time trial riders. This man knows he is on the horizon of his best ever day in the Tour de France. If he can deliver, he could be in yellow at the end of the day, and that for Australia would be something very special indeed. Back with David Miller here.
Well, Miller, we've just got time for David Zabriskie going through the first time check. 15 seconds off the board. Maybe Zabriskie has taken a sensible start and realizes and has understood from a lot of the other riders out on the course that if you start too quickly, you burn it up down towards the end. Miller looks good. It's hard to be able to read Miller. The top half of his body is not moving very much at all. He looks very powerful as he goes over the big highway here. He's being followed by French television. Next man into the starting house, former under-23 champion of the world at the individual time trial, the winner, of course, of the opening day prologue, wearer of the yellow jersey, Thor Hushovd.
Oh, big Thor Hushovd, and he was challenged for the green jersey on points. He won it last year, but he feels he's lost his chance now with that disqualification at Saint-Quentin of a high finish, put back to the back of the field, and he lost a lot of points. 22, I think, he lost on that occasion. 6th overall at 27 seconds, and he is a good time trial rider. Looking at the scoreboard, no changes at all at the moment. It's not long now before Leipheimer gets the 36.5. As we see the arrival now of Didier Russe, he might just be outside the top 10, and he's not going to upset any of the leaderboard at the moment. It's remained unchanged, this leaderboard, for well over an hour, but there are times out on the course indicating the changes are on the way.
Not a bad ride. 8th place there for Didier Russe. I think his face told it all as he crossed the line there. It was, oof, thank you very much. I don't want any more of that this afternoon. Vladimir Karpets riding a very nice aerodynamic machine, a solid disc wheel at the back. That reduces the amount of turbulence at the rear end of the machine, but As Chris Boardman said before the start, the most important thing to make aerodynamic is, of course, the body.
So there's Carpets, continues on, waiting for times to come at us. Sinkovic has arrived at the first check in 4th best time. 9 seconds off the pace now being set by Andreas Kloden of Germany and, of course, T-Mobile. The last rider to start was Paolo Saradelli and Tor Hushoff. George Hincapie will be getting up into the start house very shortly. As David Moe, well, there he is right now as the clock starts to count down. He's got a few seconds to start. Big day for George this. He is riding a time trial, not for Lance Armstrong, but for himself today, and he wants the win. See the reflection of the start ramp in his sunglasses there. Few last deep breaths. George knows this is a big important day, and he is racing superbly since he came back from his crash in Paris-Roubaix. In hindsight, that may turn out to be a blessing in disguise. He's fresh, mentally alert, he's off. So Hincapie starts now, sitting 5th overall in the Tour de France. He's had his first spell in a yellow jersey right early on in the Tour, just for a day. Let it go, never try to defend it. That's a sign of a man thinking long-term in the Tour de France, because this race isn't won in the first week. And so now he's looking for a good win. Sorry about the picture breakup a little bit. That's our cameras seizing up. Now they've let it go again. Simone's gone through, only 61st best time at the second check. So it's not long now before Leipheimer will arrive there. Well, these are the Americans. They've all made their start now, every one of them. Who's going to win? I reckon one of them might. We'll find out.
Play the Tour Mania Scratch and Win sweepstakes at your local Trek dealer for a chance to win one of thousands of neat prizes, including a ride with Lance, and get a healthy dose of savings on bikes and accessories. Play every day at TrekBikes.com.
Thanks, Trek!
LL Bean gear. If it lives up to our test, you can be sure it will live up to yours. For a free catalog of everything you need for fall, call us or shop now at llbean.com.
July 26th, OLN Survivor Wednesdays returns with an earth-shaking season. Brace yourself for Survivor Vanuatu Islands of Fire. Go! The gender war is about to explode.
Picking them girls off one by one is what it's going to be about.
We're out for blood now.
Hot drama.
It's definitely personal. Screw you.
Molten tempers.
You're messing me up!
Steamy situations.
She's hot.
Guard! What are you doing? It's enough to cause an eruption. Survivor Wednesdays Vanuatu begins July 26th at 7 p.m. on OLN.
Stop writing those big checks to the phone company. Comcast Digital Voice gives you unlimited local and long distance with 12 popular calling features plus voicemail, all for just $39.95 a month. So you save more than 20% over Quest. Comcast Digital Voice. It's Comcastic. Get Comcast Digital Voice for just $39.95 a month. Call 1-800-COMCAST.
Hi, everybody. I'm Walanda, telling you that Comcast high-speed internet is worth it. Worth it to download quicker, to win auctions in the last second, and worth it to help with that homework. You can have high speed, surfing up to 100 times faster. Want all the worth it of Comcast high-speed internet? Check this out.
Call 1-800-COMCAST today and get high-speed internet for just $29.99 a month for 6 months. Plus, get a self-install kit for just $1.
Comcast high-speed internet gets a thumbs up from Oxygen and a W for worth it.
There he is, Tom Bonan, heads up towards the start house. He's a couple of minutes to go yet, no big hurry. This is the man who has led the Tour now for 4 days. He's not a time trialist, he's not a winner of the Tour de France, but he's going to start last. That's his privilege as the race leader. He won't win today, I don't think. So looking down here on the course now, Paul, David Miller's 10th place, 34 seconds off. I think that's pretty much where I think he should expect to be at the moment as we go through to the start house now. The world champion, Michael Rogers. He comes from Canberra, comes from a very famous cycling family. His younger brother Dean, or his older brother Dean rather, once won the junior world title. And Michael has 3 times the senior title, the only Australian to do that as he now starts. He will be thinking, a good ride today, I am the next leader of the Tour de France.
A winning ride today by Michael Rogers, and there's no doubt at all about it. He will be the leader of this race. He leads, from what I've made a quick calculation, the overall contenders. Hincapie here, for example, by 4 seconds. He leads today Paolo Savardelli by 14 seconds, Floyd Landis by 15 seconds. He, of all of the overall contenders, is at the top of the board. It's a very important rendezvous for Michael Rogers here this afternoon as we look at this machine that George Hincapie is using. That is state-of-the-art, Phil. You look how deep those front rims are. Carbon fiber used to try and cut through the air as nicely as possible. Full disc wheel at the rear end of the bike. Strange cadence, a high cadence, adopted, I presume, from the style of Lance Armstrong himself. And I wonder if Armstrong is watching this, wondering whether his mate, his best mate in the world of professional cycling, George Hincapie, is going to do the business this afternoon.
Well, that will be his idea. That's what Hincapie hopes will happen today. He looks as though he's settled in nicely. There are still 2 riders left to enter the start house. Then everybody will be on course or finished. 136 riders have finished, and still on top of the board is Sebastian Lang. This is Andreas Kloden. He continues to ride very, very well. He's the best time at the first check. The big question mark is, can he keep it by the time we get to the second check, because none of the others have.
Well, everybody who's gone out very quickly over the first 16.5 kilometers have cracked in the last half of this race. Very testing course. The weather conditions are absolutely perfect as we pop down to the last 2 riders to start now. Robbie McEwen, rather strange to see Robbie starting 2 riders from the end. He's had a great start to his Tour de France, 3 stage wins, but he doesn't like the time trial.
No, he's a sprinter, pure and simple. He trains in the sprints. Now he's going to have to ride a time trial. He'll ride a reasonable time trial, but don't expect the earth-shattering result from him. He will continue this Tour de France, concentrating on that green jersey he's wearing, a competition he's won twice over the years. First ever Australian to win the green jersey. He's done it twice. Baden Cook has done it once now, so 2 Aussies winning it 3 times. He's underway. He'll take it reasonably steady. He's not going to throw his energy to the wind in a race he can't win, that's for sure. That leaves just the race leader and the world road race champion, Tom Boonen, to go. He's got just under 2 minutes now. We're waiting for the arrival of Leipheimer at the second check, and he must be very close right now. Bruchagin has just gone through with the 20th best time, and Bruchagin there starting just 2 minutes in front of Leipheimer. I'm beginning to get a little bit worried about Levi.
Yeah, I'm just waiting. I keep looking at the computer. This is Christophe Moreau, and he's actually gone through with a very good time for him. 8th at the first time check, just 25 seconds off the lead. All of the big names are stacked up in the overall classification, fairly close together at the first time check. The only man really losing out is Levi Leipheimer, losing a massive 1.5 minutes, and I think that will be a major shock. I can't find any further information, Phil, coming through as to whether or not he's had a mechanical incident down on the course, and that's the problem about being stuck on the finish line sometimes.
Well, we can just hope there is a mistake made in the timekeeping somehow, but they don't normally make mistakes because they have these little transponders on the back of their bicycles to stop the clock these days. Anyway, tongue out, typical riding style there of Christophe Moreau. The calm, smooth, good-looking features of Tom Boonen. He'll be twisted in agony in about 2 kilometers time because Tom doesn't ride a good time trial, but I think because he's in the maillot jaune, because he's the sweeper now, the last man to start of the 171 riders, after a week of the Tour de France, this man has led for the last 4 days. Huge cheers for him. He's on his way because everybody in France knows what the yellow jersey means.
Big Tom out on course. A great week for him. Everybody's criticised this man for not winning a stage, but Phil, he's had the yellow jersey on his shoulders since he took it a few days ago, and that means an awful lot of pressure. He won't enjoy the time trial this afternoon. He might get a giggle out of the conversation I had with Sean Kelly, who won the points competition at the Tour de France 4 times. I said, Sean, who is going to win the time trial this afternoon? Is it going to be Landis? Is it going to be Zabriskie? He said, no, it's going to be Tom Boonen.
Well, at the moment, I can tell you that Evans has just gone through the first check in 7th place, just 16 seconds slower than Cloden. At the finish, though, no change. Oh, yes, there is. Lockfist has slipped in there at the bottom in 5th place.
I live strong for my little brother.
I live strong for my mom.
For my wife.
For my teacher.
For my grandma.
I live strong for Pops.
For strength.
For my family.
I live strong for my hero.
For my best friend.
I live strong
for my grandbabies.
I live strong for myself.
Join AMD and HP in support of the Lance Armstrong Foundation. Every purchase of the HP Special Edition L2000 Notebook PC sends $150 to help people affected by cancer. Exclusively at CompUSA. Learn more at livestrongpc.com.
Saab was founded by 16 aircraft engineers. Their spirit lives on. Introducing the all-new Saab 97X. Once you've built jets, you don't build just another SUV. Saab, born from jets. Take flight in the 97X SUV for under $39,500.
After battling the elements for 128 years, our wood stains can handle pretty much anything. Cabot, our performance is legendary.
If you haven't discovered the miracle of fusion, it's time you did. Gillette Fusion. Until now, pressure caused irritation. Fusion has 5 blades spaced closer together to reduce pressure, with less irritation and more comfort. Flip Fusion over. A precision trimmer for those tricky places. The comfort of 5 blades, plus the precision of 1. The best shave ever in manual and battery powered. Gillette guarantees it or your money back. Gillette Fusion.
Welcome back. Well, this is the arrival at the second check of Levi Leipheimer. I can tell you he has been caught by Christian van der Velde. Another American's gone by him. Something is drastically wrong with Levi, because this is nowhere like a good time. He is losing minutes to the best time at this check at the moment, who is Denny Menchoff. He's gone through, I didn't see the clock stop, he's gone through at 3 minutes and 27, was saying here, 3:27. Now, we're hearing that we think Floyd Landis has got a flat tire. What is happening to the Americans today? Well, looking here, Paul, at the arrival of Oscar Pereiro, we're hearing news that Floyd Landis has a flat tire. We'll get to that in a moment. This is not a good day for the Americans, when it certainly should have been. Pereiro coming up to the line. Lockfitz is in 7th place. Honshaw has set the best time at 16 kilometers, and Menchoff has continued to slow. He's only 3rd best time at the 3rd check. What an amazing race this is.
Well, it's all about dosing the effort, and any of the riders who seem to have gone up very quickly over the first 16 kilometers seriously are starting to pay in the latter part of the course. The latter part of the course just a fraction more undulating. But Sergei Gonchar has certainly set the race on fire, Phil, at 16.5 kilometers, 22 seconds faster than his teammate. There are 3 T-Mobile riders in the top 5 at this time, but we've still got to wait for the other riders to turn up.
Well, 139 riders have reached the finish now, as Menchoff is peeling the car off. Now, let's see. He started to fade at the 2nd check. He dropped to only 3rd best at the 3rd check. How's he gone on now as he races towards the line? He's only, in fact, racing here for 2nd place, and I thought he was going to win this time trial. But the way he started, it seemed that way, but no, he also has tired out as the race has got longer. And Postuma sits third. That goes by the board. No, he doesn't. No, Menchov slots in third place at the moment. And that's the first time the top four have changed for absolutely ages.
Solid ride for him. I think he'll be fairly happy with that because he'll be looking down the road to the big mountains. This is Christophe Moreau riding down the centre line to keep the pace as high as possible. He is the big favourite for the French here this afternoon. He is looking at the second time check.
This is the image of Christophe Moreau here, and this is turning out yet again to be an amazing time trial on the stage of the Tour de France. Bobby Julich, the American rider, crashed and is out of the race. Levi Leipheimer, talked about as a likely winner of this race in Paris, losing at least 3.5 minutes in time at the moment when we thought he might even win the day.
We thought it was going to be the big day of the Americans, big American celebration here this afternoon. The Americans have dominated time trialing so far this season, but it seems right now as if everything is going upside down. Bobby Julich, as you said, out. Levi Leipheimer, we need some explanations about exactly what went wrong with him, and we're hearing there's a possibility that Floyd Landis has had a flat tyre out on the course. Zabriskie riding sensibly, waving the flag. He's at 6th place at the first time check. Landis has gone through there, Phil, at time check number 16.5 kilometres with the second best time, though, 17 seconds off Sergei Honchar.
And he's looking pretty cool again here. We don't know if it's true he had a flat tyre, but he's looking okay, only losing 17 seconds at that first check. I hope he started sensibly because everybody's arrived here quicker seems to have faded. Menchov was the latest casualty. Landis slots in it with the second best time. He's ahead of Andreas Kloden. He won't worry about Sergei Honchar because that man won't win the Tour de France. So Landis is scoring a good home run at the first check.
Well, he'll be happy about that, the fact that he's so close to a man who is very well known as a specialist in the individual time trial. You might think this position of Floyd Landis is rather strange, but his coach Robbie Ventura explained it all to us. The fact that he's got his hands up there actually parts the wind in front of him and makes him very aerodynamic. It's a very fast position that Landis has adopted here, but Landis and his coach Robbie Ventura actually had to convince the team to allow him to ride in this position at the start of the year, but he did it to great effect to win the Tour of California.
Just looking at the standings at 16.5 kilometres, still about 8 riders to reach that point. Sergei Honchar is the best time, 17 seconds better than Landis, 22 on Kloden. Further down the list, Dave Zabriskie is in 7th place, Cadel Evans of Australia in 9th place, and completing the top 10 is Vladimir Karbis. Dave Miller went through there. He's in 15th place at the moment, but there are still about 8 or 9 riders to reach that point.
See how Landis has got this rather strange position, but Chris Boardman, the man who's recorded the fastest ever prologue at the Tour de France at 55 kilometres an hour, explained it. The fact that Landis sits so far forward and tilts the whole of his body towards the front end of the machine makes his body very aerodynamic, and that is the most important thing because it's the body that slows you down in a race like this in the individual time trial. This young man did some pretty fast times out on the course. Marcus Foten is looking at challenging the time of Menchov, former world under-23 time trial champion. He is looking at trying to get the lead back in the best young rider competition.
Well, this guy has a great future ahead of him, I can tell you that, Marcus Foten, and he's having a very solid Tour de France, and he's still staying up amongst the action here in this time trial. He's only a young man, and Marcus Foten could be a big star from Germany of the future. As he races up now, he's well past the Menchov's time, but that doesn't matter as he continues to race towards the line.
Well, it's not bad. It's just 19 seconds adrift. Maybe he's looking after his performance a bit better than Menchov, who started very quickly, then faded a fraction down towards the end. Going back now a little further down the road. This is Thor Hushovd, the god of thunder, thundering his way through the streets of Brittany, the roads of Brittany here this afternoon, wondering whether or not he's got another chance to grab back the yellow jersey he had on day one.
Well, he's 6th from the end to start. Remember that the Americans, there's the situation overall. As we're now seeing Menchov in 3rd place. These the Americans on course. Zabriskie will have to speeden up. Not a lot of news on Hincapie yet, but we will have. What's happened to Leipheimer? Landis is going good.
Pillaging was great this time of year, but with so many people switching to Capital One, we've taken jobs as camp counselors.
Fire!
Burnt a village to the ground, doo-dah, doo-dah. We're not exactly role models.
For low rates and great rewards, switch to Capital One.
What's in your wallet? Put your backs into it!
The sky is perfect blue, no cloud could spoil the view. It's a sign from above. From above, that shows that we're in love.
Your engine knows what it wants. Pennzoil Platinum. Relearn what you know about synthetic at pennzoilplatinum.com.
Hey. Are you ready to knock down the game winner? Hoop It Up, the game created by the player for the player, is coming to Denver, July 8th and 9th at Civic Center Park. For more information or to register, visit hoopitup.com or call 888-997-PLAY. Hoop It Up, brought to you by the Army National Guard.
Here's the deal. When you talk about Geico.com, you want to communicate three things. Easy to use, no middleman, could save you hundreds on car insurance. Other than that, just sort of be personable, yeah? The old nice weather, innit? Cup of tea? That'd be lovely. How's your mum? Cheers. I'd stick with a small talk, mate. Theatrics might come across as a bit cheesy.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Welcome back to the Tour de France. This is a sad sight. Bobby Julich today crashing out in the time trial soon after the start, just as he did a few years ago when the time trial came on stage 8. Taken to the hospital, and I think he's got a feeling he may have damaged his wrist. He's gone for x-rays. We're back on with the action now with Dave Zabriskie. He's riding a steady start to the day. Maybe he can build it up, because Zabriskie now heading to the second time check here. And like everybody else suffering on this time trial today, he's aiming at Mazzolini's time. It's still a little bit of a way to go. So Zabriskie is not penetrating the leaderboard just yet after his slowish start. He's maintaining the pace, but he's not getting up there. 23 seconds down, slipped a little bit to 9th place at the moment. Menchov his best time at that point. Looking here now at Floyd Landis, who is, it's amazing, Paul, but riders are just slowing down between these time checks after the first one. The first time check, we've got Gonshaw, he hasn't got to the second yet. Neither has Floyd Landis, who sits second overall. Cloden, though, who was the fastest originally at the first check, he is slotted into only 4th best time at the second check.
This is a very difficult testing time trial this afternoon. Hincapie, by the way, has just gone through the 16.5 kilometer check in only 15th place, 52 seconds down on Sergei Gonchar. It really is amazing. We were expecting to see the possibility of a 1-2-3 for the United States here this afternoon. Well, that might not be the case.
Well, it certainly won't be the case at the moment. It won't be 1, 2 or 3, I'm afraid to say, because everybody maybe was suffering from early nerves here. They knew the pressure was on them. There's the cheers from the USA and Floyd Landis, the man we are looking at the moment. He could be the man that saves everybody's faces here, because his time is good at the first check. No guidance through at the second. David Miller just riding a steady time trial. I think he's a bit competition rusty, really. He was going through in 15th place, but there are still more riders to get to that check. This is Patrick Sinkovits, who's doing another good ride. He's up amongst the leaders. It won't be the best time unless he's pulled something special. No. Lang was 3rd here, was once time the fastest rival here. So Patrick Sinkovits still delivering a very good time at this point.
Well, much more of a climber than anything else. Again, a man who's not really a specialist at the individual effort against the clock. Going around the corner here, looking at a solid performance. He's looking to try and stop the clock inside of the top 10 if he can. Denny Menshov still the fastest rider at this point. 8th place for Sinkiewicz, but I think it's all going to be over the last 16 kilometers.
Well, this is an incredible time trial. Jaroslav Popovic has just gone through the 3rd check, only 19th place for him. Lang is still at the best time there, and so many times people have got better times and then they haven't knocked Lang off the top at the 3rd check. George Hincapie on camera. This is George now, 15th at the moment, and looking as though he's got a good style going here, but he'll need to lift it even more.
Well, he needs to do something special, but he's a seasoned professional, George Hincapie. He's ridden the Tour de France for many, many years. Won himself a stage last year for the first time. This year wore the yellow jersey for the first time. He really believes he's got a crack at finishing high up in the overall classification, but today is the first serious rendezvous for anybody who wants to win the Tour. He knows what it's all about, and I wonder if he's taken a slow start, but 52 seconds a loss in 16.5 kilometers is very difficult to turn around.
The 1st check still is waiting for 6 more riders to get through, and then they're all through that 1st check, and that'll give us the initial shaping of the time trial. At the finishing line, young Sebastian Lang, the time trial champion of Germany, will be just wondering what is going on. He gets shocks at all the checkpoints, and when they get to the finish, he is still the leader.
Well, he's going to have to wait a long time until he figures out whether or not he's going to win the stage here this afternoon. We're back with Dave Zabriskie. Zabriskie rolling his shoulders a fraction there, full disc wheel at the back, very aerodynamic machine. Look how close his elbows come into at the front there, and his knees almost touching the elbows. That makes the front end of his body almost like a knife to cut through the wind at speeds approaching 55 kilometers an hour in the straights.
Well, Zabriskie looks so good as a time trialist, but he's just got to lift it up a little notch now as he gets into the 2nd half on the run, for he's over halfway now at the moment. Sebastian Lang, who has finished, is in his 3rd Tour de France. He's finished his previous 2, but we hardly ever mentioned his name. Well, he's been a star. He shocked us all in Strasbourg with a very fast, short prologue. Finally made a top 6 finish there. Now he shocked us all again from a lowly start position. He has done a great time. This is George Hincapie riding a very special and brand new bicycle for the occasion, because for once George is riding for himself to win this race. He's not thinking of his best friend Lance Armstrong anymore.
Well, it's all over. It's all about the last 16 kilometers. I've just got a time check coming through of the last fast man to go through 16.5 kilometers. Michael Rogers has just come through with 13th place, 46 seconds off the performance of Sergei Honchar.
Well,
again, maybe he's taking a conservative start. Roughly the same time for Michael Rogers as George Hincapie, but I think maybe these riders are sitting up and looking about the fact that everybody who starts quickly seriously fades toward the end, and Hincapie is about to catch Thor Hushovd.
Well, that's will give the morale a bit of a boost here, because this is a 2-minute capture here of Thor Hushovd, who himself was once the under-23 world time trial champion. Obviously not riding quite as well as he did in Strasbourg, where he won the race. So this is going to be a great catch by George Hincapie as he comes up now, as we swing here to Christian van der Velde. I bet he never thought he would have caught Levi Leipheimer. He's coming in ahead of him now, and van der Velde himself running at the top 12. This has been a very good ride for this man. He's found great form this year with his win in Luxembourg, and now he's coming up to the line. He got the nod for the Tour de France, and his answer 16th at the moment for Christian. That's a good ride.
Well, he's a man who a couple of years ago I thought was going to disappear from the sport. Here is Levi Leipheimer, caught and passed by Christian van der Velde, and look at the time, well outside of the top 60. He's going to lose himself close to 5 minutes on everybody else in the race here this afternoon. That is not what you expect from a man who was thinking about winning the Tour de France.
Well, I don't want to say he can't win the Tour de France at this stage with 2 weeks to go. Of course he can, but he's lost an awful lot of time, and that's a huge handicap. He'll have to really climb well in the Pyrenees and the Alps now to recover 5 minutes. Not all of the riders who are beating him, of course, are going to be real big men in the Tour de France, because they can't climb. It all depends when we assess it later, just who is going to beat him, who can climb. There's his time, 1:07:49.
5 minutes lost for Levi Leipheimer. That is a huge chunk of time for a man on a day.
77th, Paul. That's ridiculous for this man.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable for Levi Leipheimer. We'll find the story out later on, I'm absolutely certain. This is the catch now. George Hincapie going past a man who was a former under-23 world time trial champion. That will give George a little bit of boost for his morale, and he will be wondering now whether or not he's going to pull a little bit closer to his teammate who started in front of him on the road, and that was Paolo Salvadelli.
Here's David Miller, Paul. Let's see how he's going now. He's just tickling inside the top 20 at the first check, where there are still 4 riders to finish there, 3 riders to arrive there. Miller coming up here. He's slipping away. In fact, David is slowing down as the race gets longer here, as so many of them have. Back to George Hincapie. No, sorry,
Popovic.
his teammate Jaroslav Popovic is going up towards the finish now. And this has been an extraordinarily good ride in the face of what we're seeing today by Popovic. And this will all well as he goes down to the mountains, because this man really can climb very well indeed.
Well, he's going to see himself lose around about 2 minutes at the end of 52 kilometers. He's outside the time of Christian van der Velde. 2:12 he's lost.
Well, 18th place for Jaroslav. Nobody will worry too much about that, that's for sure. Gritting the teeth here, Christophe Moreau, second checkpoint for him. He is a good time trial rider. He has got good form this year. He's hoping for a really good Tour de France. Hanging on in there is all we can say. Ekimov, look at him going through there at the moment with the best 12th best time. That man's 40 years of age, and he is still a superb cyclist. He's on Team Discovery, of course. As we now see Christophe Moreau, he's going to go behind Ekimov's time, but only just as he races under the checkpoint. 13th place for him. So as the race goes on here, surprises galore. This man still leads, the champion of Germany, and second place is Larsen, the champion of Sweden, while Denis Menchov of Russia, he is in third place. Zabriskie has left work to do, so too has Hincapie. Floyd seems best placed for a top finish. Leipheimer, what can I say?
LL Bean gear. If it lives up to our test, you can be sure it will live up to yours. For a free catalog of everything you need for fall, call us or shop now at llbean.com.
Try new cheesy chicken mashed potato bowls from KFC. Freshly prepared with our famous mashed potatoes, layered with sweet corn, all white meat crispy chicken, and topped with our signature gravy and 3-cheese blend. Great flavors come together at KFC.
It seems that no matter where we go or what we do, we always take my Land Rover LR3. Like when my daughter had to transport her ambitious yet prize-winning science project, it was, let's take mine. When the wife's 6 extra-tall relatives made a surprise visit, I took them to her sisters. In mine. Took mine. Took mine. When we went on a supposedly sun-filled vacation, we just had to take mine. And when the clouds finally parted, I'm glad we had mine.
Always be glad you took yours. The LR3 by Land Rover. Designed for the extraordinary. Visit your local Land Rover center.
Every night, OLN brings you the Tour Enhanced. See today's stage with commentary by Alan Bob, extra features and analysis, and more. The Tour de France Enhanced Prime, tonight at 8 p.m. Brought to you by Capital One. OLNTV.com is on tour and right in the middle of the Tour de France. Get instant and exclusive access to clips, photos, bios, and race reads, along with stage summaries and forecasts from our team of experts. OLNTV.com, your link to the Tour de France.
Our workday never ends. I'm not saying our people don't go home or have lives, but ending our workday here doesn't stop our best thinking from moving forward someplace else.
Dynamic networking from AT&T enables collaboration around the world and the clock, so Alan's company is always ahead of market demands, schedules, and the competition. The new AT&T, your world delivered.
Do you really need a titanium driver? That magnesium frame spinning reel? A 60-inch screen? Do you really need a motor oil that protects for 15,000 miles?
Darn right.
You deserve the best of the best. Mobil 1 Extended Performance. Advanced technology, proven anti-wear protection, guaranteed for 15,000 miles.
Mobil 1 Extended Performance.
The oil that's changing oil.
Well, this is Cadell Evans. Welcome back to the time trial. What a strange day we are having here. This race is no more likely to predict a winner of the Tour in 2 weeks than we thought before the day started. Looking here at the top of the team car, I think, of Floyd Landis, and it does look as though Landis did have a change of bikes, which nobody saw, but we did hear that he did have a flat tyre before the 16-kilometre check. Sergei Gonchar here now heading up, and this is the man who set the best time at the first check, which has survived now because all the riders are through, and it looks as though he might still be the best at the second check. Well, this is Sergei Gonchar racing up, tunneling in that gear that makes your legs ache just to watch him here as Gonchar pumps on, and it looks to me as though it is going to be a new best time. It is by a minute over Menchov. That is amazing.
He is a big, strong rider. It's the weirdest position in the sport of individual time trialing. It would not normally work, but it works very well for him. He's absolutely powerful, battling the machine. As you say, Phil, it does even hurt me looking at him go like that, but a minute faster than anybody else at this point. He could very well be the new leader tonight. Well, that'll be only a temporary thing, but it's going to create an interesting Tour, this. Now, the man he was catching there, his own teammate, started 2 minutes ahead of him, Matthias Kessler. So they'll keep an eye on two teammates riding close together. I don't think Kessler has any chance of holding on to Gonchar when he's tunneling such a heavy gearing as that. Looks like under 4 kilometres banner there for Dave Zabriskie. Zabriskie isn't going to win this time trial, I'm sorry to say, and he's not going to be remotely close to winning the time trial if he keeps up this sort of a pace. He's still slipped away. Looking at the timing board now, everybody except one rider is through the first check. I must presume the one rider not through is Robin McEwen, or we had a non-starter we haven't been told of. If that's the case, they're all through. We will move on to the second check. This is now the arrival Marcus Foten. This has been a great ride by Marcus Foten. This, a young rider who is now getting used to the Tour de France, I think. Well, he certainly is. He's riding very good time trials. He's going to keep himself. This is going to be a top 10 finish at the end of the afternoon, and for him, he's probably going to put him at the top of the leaderboard in the best young rider classification, losing just 37 seconds to Sebastian Lang. Well, in fact, just going through the 46-kilometre time check, Dave Zabriskie is in 8th position, 39 seconds off the lead of Sebastian Lang.
Well, Marcus Foten has only won one race as a professional back in 2004, and we're looking at the world champion now, Michael Rogers. He also has started, should we say, steady at the moment. The world champion needing to get a little bit of extra speed in those legs if he's going to start wearing that yellow jersey from tonight, because there's no doubt that Tom Bonan is out of yellow, but right now I've no idea where it's going. We're looking at the world champion here, though, the rainbow jersey of Michael Rogers from Australia. Tom Bonan, by the way, 44th, has gone through the first check at a minute 26 off the pace, but even that is quicker than Levi Leipheimer, so goodness knows what's happened to Levi today. Gonchar has gone through the second check with the best time by more than a minute over Denny Menchov of Russia. We're awaiting the third check there. Not a lot of change back home. Foten, though, has produced the ride of his life. This youngster now is only 24.5 years of age. Slots in third place, Marcus Foten, at the moment. Here comes the arrival of Andreas Klöden. Once rocking the ship at the first check, slowly been slipping away, and was only 5th at the last check. So we can expect a 5th or a 6th place finish here.
Well, it's a long way from that final corner to stop the clock on the finishing line, but I think Klöden will be fairly satisfied with his performance here. He's looking at rocking the time of Larsen, who was the early leader of the time trial here this afternoon. Klöden trying to put himself foundations down for a finish at the Tour de France at the top end of the overall classification.
As he races up towards the line here, watch the clock just ticking down. 4th place, and he finishes well. 4th place at the moment. So Andreas Klöden comes in. He actually increased a little bit there over the last few kilometres of the race. And same has to be said of Michael Rogers. He needs to pick it up here. Don't forget, Saab Watch and Win sweepstakes. OLNTV.com is the place to go. Fly to the finish. And the code word today is Landis. And Landis seems to be the man doing the best of the Americans just now out on course. Michael Rogers, he was starting 3rd from the end today. You can take confidence in the fact that there are 2 riders higher in the overall classification behind him. He is beating both of them. Let's swing to Floyd Landis now. This is the second check at kilometre 36.5. This is where Honshaw has set an incredible time of 43 minutes and 50 seconds. Floyd certainly can't do that, but he's staying right up there with the men who matter in this year's Tour de France. Honshaw will not win the Tour de France. Landis could, and this is a great ride by Floyd. We think he's changed bicycles in the first few kilometres of the day. Well, it hasn't affected his attitude to this race at all. He goes through second best time, 41.3 seconds off the incredible time of Sergei Honshaw. Floyd Landis is enjoying his day, but I think he's about the only American who is right now. There he goes at 15 kilometres to race to the finish now for Floyd Landis. He's sitting second in the race today. Here comes Dave Zabriskie now. Now, this is a huge effort for Zabriskie, but I don't think it's going to be a winning one. That's the time he's doing. He's gone past the time of Lang. Lang is in a 1:2:47. Zabriskie has hurt himself today, but never quite got on top of the leaderboard. It's still an awful long way to go up to the finish. And so Dave Zabriskie is CSC. Isn't going to win a time trial today. He's lost his team captain too. Bobby Julich is out of the Tour de France today. Christian van der Velde has had a great ride. He caught and passed Levi Leipheimer. And Zabriskie now coming home, giving away almost a minute to Lang as he hits the line. 7th for Zabriskie. So he runs down now, finishes in 7th place. Still 7 more riders to reach the second checkpoint. Now you can tell who that is by the fact he's hardly pedaling because of the huge gear this man pumps. All this has done throughout his career, it once carried him to a world time trial title. Sergei Honshaw is down there. You see the flag is flying quite well, and that is a sign of a very strong crosswind right now. Do you think Lang cares? He's still in at the finish. Poor old Bobby. He is down and out of the Tour. And this rider finishing now, Leipheimer. What happened, Levi? And Floyd, he changed bikes, but he's still right there in second place. He could still win. Zabriskie's home.
Teamwork wins races.
There is Lance Armstrong and his U.S. Postal Service cycling teammates.
And there's a crash in the Postal team. There's a touch of wheels. 2 riders are down here.
Armstrong giving instructions, slow down, let's get back together.
This is a brave decision or a silly one. We'll find out. Armstrong bringing his team home to the line. New best time. That is absolutely unbelievable.
Look at the line and the organisation of the blue train. This is utter perfection. Oh, look at that smile. It's incredible. As wide as the Pacific Ocean.
This is the team now looking as one unit. This is Discovery in full flight.
This will be the 3rd win in 3 years.
The fastest ever time trial in the history of the event.
Brought to you by Trek Bicycle's new Equinox TTX 9.9, equipped with Bontrager wheel works and components.
One chick, one chicken dinner. 6 chicks, 6 chicken dinners. 1 is good, 6 is better. Especially for NASCAR Nextel Cup Series racing. Now you can add not just 1, but 6 channels of in-car coverage, plus data, telemetry, and team audio, all with NASCAR in-car, only on digital cable. Order today for just $69. Call 1-888-COMCAST today. When it comes to sports, we're on your team.
Check out the new hit movies you can order on demand, and look what you can order right now.
My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard.
From the makers of Scary Movie.
Idiot! Hell no, I won't marry you. God!
Date Movie, now on demand.
Oh my God.
The pulse-pounding thriller Firewall is now available.
I'm done talking.
Don't miss it. Hit movies without the trip to the video store. On demand with Comcast Digital Cable.
Floyd Landis here, rocking and rolling. Despite the slight delay, he is still right there in second place on the road. This is the man who is spoiling the party for Floyd Landis, because Sergei Gonchar, he's won 5 stages of the Tour of Italy, all of them time trials. He has never won a stage in the Tour de France. That's the situation at the finish. Sinkovic has now come in. Superb rider, 3rd place at the moment. Foten sits now 4th, and Cloden has plunged down into 5th place. He was the best time at one stage. Whoa, and that's a tight old corner, but Sergei Gonchar is round it, and boy, is this man going well. It's going to be a tough time, but if Floyd Landis can beat him, that'll be special. Well, this is Michael Rogers, the world time trial champion. Is he warming now to the occasion? There's still 6 riders, including Rogers, to reach the check at 36.5 kilometers.
Well, 3 times a champion of the world. He is a specialist at this, and this is a very important time trial for Michael Rogers. He's got a big chunk of advantage over everybody else who was hoping to get the overall lead this afternoon. But in fact, he's only got around about 16 seconds advantage in the overall classification over Sergei Gonchar. And at the moment, Gonchar is storming all over this event.
At the moment, Gonchar will be the next yellow jersey of the Tour de France, and he's never worn the yellow jersey. Talking of yellow jerseys, let's go back and have a look at Tom Bonan. Here he is, sweeping up, the 170th rider on course. Remember, the Tour lost a rider today with that tragic accident to Bobby Julich of the USA and Team CSC. This is Matthias Kessler. He's been caught by Gonchar, who's ahead. Nothing wrong with riding where he is. He's quite within the rules here, not in the slipstream of Gonchar. He must stay away from him, though.
Gonchar riding down the middle of the road, just in front of his teammate Kessler, trying to make sure he can conserve as much of the advantage that he's had. He went through the second time check with the fastest time, 42 seconds faster than Floyd Landis, but we're just hearing that Floyd Landis did have a mechanical incident out on the course, and that's probably where he's lost a chunk of his time. But for Gonchar now, he's got to keep the pace up. This is Hincapie now coming to L'Hermitage.
George Hincapie pumping out at 36.5 kilometers. This is where Gonchar set that remarkable time. Hincapie nowhere near that, of course, but there's a long way to go in the Tour de France. All he's thinking about is limiting his time losses, not so much to Sergei Gonchar, but he will worry about the time of Floyd Landis. So as they continue, 45.37 to go. Grabs 45.43 and outside the top 21. Well, I think it's a long way around these bends. You go through the S's now to the banner, and Hincapie, there's Bradley Wiggins still sitting there, but he's just inside the top 25 now, Wiggins, as these big riders start to arrive home. Look at that time by Gonchar, and George is losing over 2 minutes to him now.
Losing a couple of minutes, Hincapie at that point, a face of pain all over his face as he comes up to this line. Hincapie will, I think, be a little bit shocked as well. So many riders at the start of this individual time trial had the belief, Phil, that they could take the overall lead here this afternoon, and they're all getting a little bit of a reality check.
Well, this is a local boy here, Benoit Vonenard. He comes home, and a big cheer from the crowd. Big effort too. 48th place for him on the Française des Jeux team. As we look down here, still at the laborious style of Sergei Gonchar, but it certainly rides to good effect. Look at that check at 46 kilometers now. Gonchar is 1:12 ahead of Lang, who is still the leader in the finish and has been for most of the day.
55 minutes and 9 seconds is a massive beating of everybody else. 1 minute and 12 seconds faster than Sebastian Lang, and he really is doing a great performance. His teammate who's behind him is 14th at the moment. This is David Miller. He's going to cross the line, I think, Phil, inside the top 30. For him, it's still going to be a long battle back to the top. Not surprising. 2 years out of competition, you can't really come back and expect to slot in at the top end of the sport.
No, but he's riding a very clever Tour de France here, showing no signs of weakness. 28th place at the moment. He'll drop out of the top 30 before the end of the day. Christophe Moreau now, and Christophe Moreau started behind Miller, and he's finishing right up behind him. So Moreau has really done a great ride here today, because he's judged himself on Miller's performance. He knows Miller's ability, and he's not too far off having caught David Miller today. Christophe Moreau will be very, very pleased with this ride. He's right up amongst the leaders as he races to the line. 9th place. He's a contender.
Good performance by this man who's been a contender at the Tour de France over the last number of years, and a little bit of a slap in the face for Roger Liggett, because Roger Liggett did not want to renew his contract at the end of last season. It was during the Tour de France that Christophe Moreau found out that they weren't going to sign him up again for the 2006 season, so he moved across to what apparently was a smaller team, AG2R, but they now seem to be riding very solidly. Now back with Floyd Landis.
Floyd Landis, and look at this, coming up behind him here.
This is Tom Bonin and McEwen.
Yes, I beg your pardon. He's passed McEwen. We didn't see the pass. We didn't know he'd passed. I think I said it a bit earlier, but it's all is the situation. But now Robbie's going to keep Tom Bonin in his sights and ride just legally enough behind, not to be accused of taking pace.
Well, these are the last two riders on the field, and I wonder if they'll have a sprint to sort it out at the end. This is Michael Rogers, and he's riding solidly. He's moved up a fraction, but it's a long way from this corner to the point where the clock stops.
It is a long way. It's through the S's here, so it's not going to be a third place at the moment. He'll be slower than Menchoff. But as long as he keeps progressing, the other boys have been slowing down, with the one notable exception of Sergei Honchar, and indeed Floyd Landis is hanging on in there very, very well. This is the World Time Trial champion, Michael Rogers, who has been kept his form a little bit lower this year. Last year he was a challenger in the Tour of Switzerland before this race began. This year he rode a quieter Tour de Suisse in the hope it would all come good here. Now Cadel Evans arriving at the finish. At the Czechs he was in 9th place of those who'd gone before him, just a few kilometres back. A big effort now from Cadel Evans as he races up to the line. He'll probably finish somewhere around the 9th place. Let's see now, in 8th place, so he's improved a little bit there. Cadel Evans, 8th place for him as he crosses the line, so he'll be happy enough with that today. It's a long way in the Tour. These are the boys who have made their start. Landis is on fire, as well as Sergei Honchar, and that Lang is still the leader at the finish, but surely not for much longer. We'll take a break.
Saab was founded by 16 aircraft engineers. Their spirit lives on. The turbocharged Saab 9.3 sports sedan with an estimated 31 miles per gallon highway. Once you've built jets, you don't build just another car. Saab, born from jets. Take flight in the 9.3 sports sedan for under $27,000.
Your life doesn't have one dimension. Neither should your beer. Michelob Ultra. Rewarding taste that's made for the way you play. Live life to the Ultra.
So, boss, what keeps you up at night? Maybe you've been tasked with coming up with the next best thing since sliced bread. But look at the guy who invented sliced bread. He didn't invent bread. He didn't invent slicing. He just applied new technology to an age-old problem. Now, who's going to help you do that?
Real shooters, real rules, real cash. The world's greatest players, Hall of Famers, and hustlers battle it out for the richest payday in the history of the sport. Over $1 million in prize money. But to rack up that kind of cash, they better bring their 8 game.
Come on, you country redneck.
It's the IPT King of the Hill 8-ball shootout 2-hour season finale. Sunday at 6 Eastern, only on OLN.
It's showtime.
Pillaging was great this time of year, but with so many people switching to Capital One, we've taken jobs as camp counselors. Burnt a village to the ground, doodah, doodah. We're not exactly role models.
For low rates and great rewards, switch to Capital One.
What's in your wallet? Put your backs into it!
engine knows what it wants. Pennzoil Platinum. Relearn what you know about synthetic at pennzoilplatinum.com.
Welcome back, and we're just in time here for the arrival of the former world time trial champion Sergei Gonchar. He lines up here. It's going to be the best time. It's only a question of what will that time be. Behind him is court teammate Matthias Kessler. Gonchar is back on the form. We've seen him riding in the past. He's won 5 stages of the Giro d'Italia. He's won, they've all been time trial victories. He's never won a time trial of the Tour de France. He's never won the yellow jersey in the Tour de France, and today could be his day for the double, because this time I think might also give him yellow. I don't think anybody except Floyd Landis can get anywhere close. That's a ride. 1:1:43.6 for him. He's finished 4th, 5th and 6th overall. 3rd, 4th and 5th rather in the Giro d'Italia in the years gone by. I don't think he can repeat that performance in the Tour de France. But then again, I didn't really expect him to win the time trial today. That's the situation at the moment. Only Floyd really, according to the time checks, has a chance to better that time. 1:1:43, a massive beating. 1 minute 4 seconds better than Lang, who has stood throughout most of today. Well, it's not often you see this. The riders who start at the back of the field are both sprinters rather than top time trial riders because of the course this year. Bonan in yellow, he's out of it now, of course, after that ride by Sergei Gonchar today. And Robbie McEwen in green, he'll keep that to racing it tomorrow. He has a good lead with 3 stage wins.
Certainly does. Robbie McEwen's had a brilliant start to the Tour this afternoon. Tom Boonen won't give up, though. I think he went out on a mission to try and catch Robbie McEwen this afternoon. Now McEwen is turning it round, and he said, look, Tom, you've caught me, but you're not going to get rid of me. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Robbie sprint past him in the finishing straight.
Well, he's an entertainer as well. These boys aren't going to win the Tour de France. If they get time penalties for allegedly pacing like this, it really won't worry them. Because they're not aiming for a high finish in Paris, just a finish. And Robbie, of course, is aiming for that green jersey. This is Carpets now, swinging in. Another mark of force, which means that just behind Carpets will, I think it's Cadel Evans who won't be too... No, Cadel's in, isn't it? Sorry, it's Landis, of course it is. Landis who'll come in next. He needs to have closed in on Carpets quite dramatically too if he's going to have a chance of approaching the time. He's still in 2nd place, and it doesn't look as though he will beat the winner today, Gonchar. At the 3rd check, Landis has lost 57 seconds, but he's going to feel elated with his ride today because he's gained time on all of his main contenders except Gonchar. 10th place for Carpets. He's destined for yet another good finish in a Tour de France.
Michael Rogers, looking at the time check at 36.5 kilometers covered. Gonchar was the fastest rider there in 43 minutes 50 seconds. Michael Rogers was 7th, 1 minute and 16 in arrears, and he was looking at the day of trying to take the yellow jersey, but once again he's being forced away from the top of the leaderboard by the incredible domination of this individual time trial by Sergei Gonchar.
Well, the situation is a very strange one today, and here comes Landis, and he's not too far behind Carpets either, so it's been a very, very good ride. Remember, he's had a flat tire, he's certainly had the bicycle change. That story will unfold later, but right now he never let it faze him at all because he is best of the rest today. This has been an extraordinarily good ride by Floyd Landis, while most of the Americans seem to have slipped away today in some way or another. Landis coming up. Lang is the time he's aiming at. He should beat that as he races up. Going to have to be quick, otherwise he'll be slotting behind, but he comes up to the line as he hits the... No, he's not going to make... Yes, he is. 2nd place for Floyd Landis, but exactly a minute, probably rounded up, it'll be 61 seconds slower than Sergei Gonchar. Gonchar will now win the time trial today, his first ever victory on a time trial or any stage of the Tour de France, and I think, Paul, he'll get the yellow jersey as well. Just looking now at Paolo Sabadelli. The big riders seem to be in. Sergei Gonchar, best time. Lang is in the 3rd place now, pushed down by Floyd Landis. Paolo Sabadelli continues here to surprise, and he's doing a good solid ride. But Gonchar, look at that. They're telling us now he is the yellow jersey of the Tour de France. First time ever for him.
Well, nobody, I think, is going to threaten him. The only person who would, of course, have been Michael Rogers, but Michael Rogers is a long way behind Sergei Honchar at the second and third time checks of the day. Salvadelli here has to keep riding, has to put in a fine performance, because what Team Discovery have to do now, Phil, is look for breakaway situations to launch riders in to try and leapfrog them back up in the overall classification. But I think one or two riders are going to be very surprised with the performances of the time trial here this afternoon. And Sergei Honchar, you know, we really should have thought about him before, because whatever situations are in big stage races, he is always a solid performer.
He is. He's had a few thin years, but this man is now 30. Well, he will be 36 years. He was 36 years of age 2 days after this tour began. And so he's riding at 36. He just pulled out that sort of a time trial. As we watch here, Paolo Salvadelli. Honchar has won 5 time trial stages of the Tour of Italy, yet he's never won one in the Tour de France before. And although he's led the Tour of Italy, he's never led the Tour de France. He's achieved both on the same day.
Well, he's cheered both on the same year, and you know what? He's been a pink jersey wearer in the Giro d'Italia this year for a single day. He lost it and then he got it back again because of his time trialing ability. It's an amazing style that he's got. It's probably the most ungainly style of anybody in the sport of individual time trialing, but he does manage to turn out some incredible average speeds. 50 kilometers an hour for Sergei Honchar as we look here at Paolo Salvadelli, turning nice and fast. I think he's also learned a little bit from the cadence of Lance Armstrong. 102, 105 beats a minute for him as he comes down towards the finishing line.
So Paolo Salvadelli, this is a rider who will possibly mix it for Team Discovery once they go into the mountains. This is a good ride for him. It's kept him right up amongst the leaders. There'll be no disappointment for this ride by Salvadelli. He is a good time trialist, but he's an even better climber, and he's not conceding too much. He knows all about Sergei Honchar. He's gone shoulder to shoulder with him, and he beat him in the Tour of Italy. So he won't be too worried. He would have expected maybe a great ride by Honchar today. Salvadelli climbs that little bit better. Well, it's been a long ride for him, and it's been a tough day today. There have been so many surprises. Mazzolini is still a big shock to us, as he's got a high finish today as well.
Well, it's an up and down day for many of the big contenders. A lot of riders came into this first rendezvous at the Tour de France with high hopes of moving themselves up to the top of the classification, but certainly it has been an upside down tale for many riders, including Levi Leipheimer, who right now must be wondering what has happened to him. We have no information coming through to us on the computer here at the finishing line as to what happened to Levi Leipheimer, but maybe he just cracked up with the nerves.
It is all possible. Here's the world champion of the time trial now. This is Michael Rogers from Canberra, Australia. He hasn't done the ride I expected of him today. I thought he would have been the next man in the leader's yellow jersey. Certainly had the position, starting third from last overall. So third overall in the race, third from last in the start order, and you're the champion of the world at the time trial. It was the man you should have put your money on to be the leader. Not the case today. Sergei Honchar has come from the depths of the overall and has stolen the jersey from them all.
Well, Honchar started the day in 10th place in the overall classification, and he really put in a storming performance. He's done something, I think, to remount the morale of the T-Mobile squad, who were really in the dumps with the withdrawal of Jan Ullrich within 24 hours of the start of the race this year because of his alleged involvement in that doping scandal. This is Tom Boonen, the man who started the day in the yellow jersey, sprinting away here from Robbie McEwen, and they're looking at around about 15 kilometers to go, 10 kilometers to go to the finish.
Just 10 kilometers or 6 miles. The wind has slightly crossed a little bit on the tail as they head home now, but you know, T-Mobile without Jan Ullrich have had a great first week. Now they've got the leader of the Tour. Matthias Kessler got a victory in the Holland section of the race, so they've enjoyed it quite a lot.
They certainly have. It's amazing how they can fight back sometimes, especially from something like that.
Here's Tom Boonen now as he runs along towards the finish. He's about 9 kilometers to go now. Sergei Honchar sits in the finish with what will be the winning time today. 1 hour, 1 minute, 43 seconds for the full distance. This is Michael Rogers. We thought he was the next logical man to take yellow. It won't be the case. He's not on the leaderboard. That's the situation. Honshaw, this is the situation of 46 kilometres before the finish, and Rogers is in 4th place. But look at the time loss, 1 minute and 23.
Massive time loss to his own teammate, let's not forget, on Team Mobile, Sergei Gonchar, who's going to be the new leader of the race tonight by a massive margin over everybody. He, I think, this afternoon has put in the time trial performance of his life. And bear in mind, he's already ridden a Grand Tour this season. He rode already in the Giro d'Italia.
So, mixed feelings for Michael Rogers. His team have got yellow, but it's on the wrong shoulders as far as he is concerned, as he continues now to run into the finish. And I must say, he looks very, very good, but he just hasn't matched up to 3 other riders today. Lang has done the ride of his life, the time trial champion of Germany, and Landis has done the ride of his life, because as far as we know, he did change his bike somewhere in the first 16 kilometres of the day. And Sergei Honshaw is in, and there's no one now who's going to stop him winning his stage or taking the overall lead of the Tour.
Well, there's going to be a very different overall classification tonight, with all these strange performances and great performances that have been produced by a number of riders, with Rogers at 3 kilometres to go. Team Mobile, from a team that was devastated 24 hours before the start, and now at the end of the day probably going to have 1st and 3rd overall in the classification, with Honshaw in 1st place and probably Michael Rogers slotting in 3rd.
So Team Mobile, without Jan Ulrich, are having a very, very successful opening to this year's Tour, and all year they've been looking for their first win. Let's get back to the finish. This is the arrival now of George Hincapie. Again, a solid ride, which will just keep him up there. That's all he's looking for. He would have liked to have won the time trial, but look at this. Another man that hasn't been able to deliver the goods today. This is a very strange race.
A very strange race. Hincapie looking at a top 25 or 30 finish in the individual time trial. In the past, he's actually slotted into the top 10 in time trials at the Tour de France, but this afternoon he wasn't able to rival the performances of Sergei Honshaw and Michael Rogers. But it's a long race. Let's not forget, there's still 2 weeks to go, and as Hincapie comes up to the line, he's still waiting for the clock to stop.
Well, the gaps tonight, there won't be seconds, there'll be minutes right down the leaderboard, because the ride by Honshaw, they'll just rely very heavily on the fact he is not a brilliant high mountain climber, and it'll take a while to claw him back down to the Pyrenees mid next week, and then the following week, of course, we're in the Alps. This is a very tough race now, and George Hincapie has just done enough to keep himself in touch and just in sight of a yellow jersey.
Well, there's still 4 riders left to come to the finish, but of those 4 riders, there are only really 3 of them that can be regarded as being, well, 3 of them are regarded as sprinters. Oh, I forgot about Thor Hushovd. He also has been caught and passed by George Hincapie.
This is 6 minutes, this one.
Well, Hushovd, the big sprinter, I think now, like all of the other sprinters, Hushovd, Frere, McEwen and Boonen taking today as almost a half day off, because for them there is another chance of winning the stage tomorrow in the sprint, and they've decided they don't want to try and battle up and stay at the top end of the standings.
Well, Rogers has passed Oscar Frere. Hincapie is in. He never caught George for 4 minutes, and now Hushovd being caught here for 6 minutes out of the start house. But all this, although it looks very impressive, is not going to result in a win for Michael today. He might, if he's come good, he could just come into 3rd place, which is being currently held by Sebastian Lang, or he'll just slot in behind Lang. It all depends how well he's ridden this last 8 kilometres of the day.
Well, he looks good. His body looks as if it's telling him that there's plenty of engine room power still there for Michael Rogers. He comes up to the banner indicating 1,000 metres to go. So he is out on course, looking to try and get himself a top 3 position in the overall classification, because he's not going to rattle the cage of Sergei Gonchar here this afternoon, because the man from Ukraine has done the performance of the day.
Well, Thor Hushovd will just concentrate on winning stage as this race goes on, because he can ride a good time trial. He was the under-23 world champion a few years ago. He showed us in the prologue in Strasbourg he can win too, which he did there, but that was only 7 kilometres. This one is 52 kilometres. Now the arrival of the world champion. Tell by his face it's been a hard day out there today for just about every one of the 170 riders. We started with 171. Sadly, we've lost Bobby Julich of the United States along the way. Nasty crash for Bobby, and he may have a broken wrist. Anyway, we're looking now at the arrival of the world champion here. This is Larson he's aiming at. He might just slip inside Larson. He was up on him at the last check by just 4 seconds as he held it as he races for that 4th place. He's just about going to scrape in, so he's kept his advantage over the time trial champion of Sweden. and he comes home. The world champion is fourth today, and no yellow jersey.
Well, he was hoping, he was dreaming, I think, at the start of the day. There's Thor Hushovd just crossing the line as well. He's not too worried about his long down finish. 140th place for Thor Hushovd, and now I think just 3 riders left to finish.
Tom Bowen on the highway now. The pedaling style of Tom Bowen, and we'll speak of this man, even though he's now losing his maillot jaune. That's passing across to the T-Mobile squad and to Sergei Honshaw in about 10 minutes' time. But for Tom, of course, he'll get on with his quest, which is to try and win the green jersey of points. And that's on the rider he caught today. Of course, on a time trial, there aren't many points given out. And in fact, these boys have no chance of winning any of them.
Well, you know, Tom Bowen went through the 3rd time check there in 40th place, so that wasn't really too bad at all for a man who is not renowned for being a time trialist. At that point, Sergei Honshaw was still the fastest man with a time of 55 minutes and 9 seconds, but almost a minute faster than Floyd Landis. It's been an incredible turnaround in the overall classification here this afternoon, but you know what? It's a long way from being finished.
Honshaw has led this race from the first check to the last check. He survived, everybody else tried to, and they just faded as the race got longer. And Tom Bowen here knew he was never going to lead by the end of the day. He's riding a totally different Tour de France. He's not a final winner, he knows that, but he'll look for stages now. But Honshaw, I mean, even on the last few kilometres of the day, Landis still managed to lose 4 more seconds in the last 5 or 6 kilometres to the line. Honshaw never slowed down.
Sergei Honshaw was on complete fire here this afternoon. He certainly was out on a mission, and T-Mobile have turned the race completely and utterly upside down, because at the end of the day they'll be 1st and 3rd. The yellow jersey here on the shoulders of Tom Bowen will be replaced tomorrow by the World Champions jersey, and then he will be out on the open road again, trying to do what he hasn't done so far in this tour and get himself an individual stage. But I have to say, he's worn the yellow jersey with absolute pride, and he's not actually done a very bad individual time trial, because he's going to finish inside of the top 40.
Well, tomorrow he might even be the winner again, because it's all downhill to the coast at Lorient. But today he says goodbye to the maillot jaune, and he won't see it again this year in the Tour de France, because the big men started firing today. Well, not all of them, did they? This has left a very open race. It hasn't closed it down at all today. Landis has profited most. He now must be surely a big favourite to win the Tour, riding a time trial like he's ridden today.
Well, it's all going to be, once we get to the big mountains, the next rendezvous on the horizon for all of the contenders here is going to be the Pyrenees. Floyd Landis, of all of the major pre-race favourites, has done the best job of work, because he has put time between himself and everybody else. He certainly has learned to open up the gaps. We'll find out a little bit later exactly what happened to him out on the course, but certainly we do know that he had a little bit of a problem with his machine and had to change his bike. 1 hour and 1 minute 43 seconds for Sergei Honshaw, 1 hour 2:44 for Floyd Landis, and this is the sprinter Oscar Freire coming into the finish. All of the sprinters, Phil, outside of the top 100.
Well, this boy's well outside with a 68-minute ride. 170 riders left in the Tour de France, and Oscar Freire looking for stages, not wins in the overall. But just thinking now, this is the last long time trial until the penultimate day of the Tour de France, which is 2 weeks away. And then what will happen? Will they be racing to close down the gaps, or will they have opened big gaps in the mountains? Honshaw in 2 weeks' time might be racing to find the time that will give him a victory in the Tour de France. You never know.
Well, I think in this Tour de France, we never know what's going to happen. It's going to be a very strange tour, and I think it will be made a lot more open now with the performances of everybody in the individual time trial here this afternoon, because there's been some strange performances of riders who thought they were going to be moving up in the standings, finding themselves tumbling away. Cadel Evans was fairly solid. Michael Rogers was reasonably solid. He's still quite high up there. But from some of the other contenders, they're going to have to think about their strategy.
Well, Tom Bowen, one of 2 riders only now out on course. There's the other one, Robin McEwen, 3 stage wins in the first week of the Tour de France. Equals his record. He got 3 last year. He's now on with course to set an even higher score. Most successful Australian stage winner ever. Tom Bowen looking for the stage win. It might come tomorrow, but he's saying goodbye today to the maillot jaune by a huge margin. Sergei Honshaw will pull this jersey on, and he will be best part of a minute ahead of his nearest rivals.
All credit to Tom Bowden. You know, he's not just cruising in. He could just ride around here and say, well, forget about it. I knew I wasn't going to do a good time trial anyway. He is still fighting here. I know he's not going to finish inside of the top 20 in the time trial this afternoon, but he's trying to do honour to the jersey. He started the day off with it on his shoulders, and he knew he was going to lose it. He could have cruised round like the other sprinters, but he wants to battle. He wants to enjoy the last few moments in yellow.
The huge crowd here in the streets of Rennes now, the arrival of the man who was last to start, of the 171 who started today, Tom Bowden. His time won't matter, he's too far down. His maillot jaune will go tonight to Sergei Honchar of the Ukraine, and I think he'll be the first ever Ukrainian rider to lead the Tour. I'll check that later. As he comes up towards the line, you see Tom is well down in the overall. So Honchar will win this time trial. There's still Robbie McEwen to finish, but he's been caught for 2 minutes by Bowden. And Landis will finish in second place. Sebastian Lang third, and Michael Rogers, the world champion, will be fourth. And that has left a very open Tour de France still, despite this long time trial. There's no more time trials now until the penultimate day of the Tour, which is exactly 2 weeks away.
Well, everybody thought that final time trial was going to be quite decisive. It could be a situation where we see the whole race turn upside down once again as Bowden comes up to the line, stops the clock in 41st place. No more yellow jersey for him.
No, but I have to say that that is a very good ride by Tom Bowden. He didn't throw that jersey away. He honoured it, I think. And here's the arrival now of McEwen waving to the crowd. You can never say you enjoy a time trial, but at least there was no pressure on Robbie to turn in a good time. He can't have any ambitions of winning the Tour. And I'm afraid the big mountains are a little bit too big for this little man from Queensland. As he comes in, looking very cool and collected. Just time for a shower now for Robbie. Routine day for him, 1:8:10, still an extremely good ride, but way down the field, 109th. So there's Robbie, he is in. Now we're going to see a little bit of history now with the Ukrainian rider Sergei Honchar pulling on the maillot jaune. Congratulations T-Mobile. They don't need Jan Ulrich. They've had 2 stage wins, and now they've got the leader of the Tour. We will reveal all, and there's plenty of stories to reveal when you come back after the break.
When we set out to build an entirely new type of motorcycle, we looked everywhere for inspiration, except to convention. The 113 cubic inch fuel-injected Star Roadliner. We build it, you make it your own. Test drive one today at participating Yamaha dealers. Now get a 5-year warranty plus low 5.9% financing on any Roadliner or Stratoliner.
It's coming. 5 new vehicles. All have our best ideas within them. All are engineered for people who love the road. It's coming. The next generation of Nissan thinking for the next generation of Nissan drivers. Get ready. Shift 2.0 is coming.
Bedhead, proof that you've experienced the new Hampton bed. A plush comforter, a crisp white duvet, and choice of pillows. You'll be well rested and ready for anything. Hampton, home of the proud bedhead.
Jack Link's Beef Jerky presents Messin' with Sasquatch. Jack Link's Jerky. Feed your wild side.
Well, there's a beautiful view for you. We're above the capital of Brittany, Rennes. This is our Trek aerial view today. And what a happy sight it is for one Sergei Honchar, because he has won his first ever stage of the Tour de France. What a strange day this has been. And it's been a very sad day too for one Bobby Julich. Let's have a look back. This is the man who set the trend from a very early start. The time trial champion of Germany, Sebastian Lang, and he almost made it to the bitter end. He's had a great tour so far. Then came this. Before the first check, soon after the start, down and out. Bobby Julich on his way to hospital, I believe with a suspected broken wrist. And what happened to Levi Leipheimer? We'll find out. But he did what was probably the worst time trial of his life.
Well, Dave Zabriskie we expected to ride well, but the man who has actually defended his position admirably is, of course, Floyd Landis. He did, we believe, had a mechanical incident out on the course, and finishing second keeps him high up in the overall classification. The man who didn't do the performance he was expecting, of course, was Dave Zabriskie, but Landis was on fire most of the way round. I think at the end of the day, when he starts to look at the overall classification tonight, Phil, he won't be too upset because of all of the pre-race favourites. He probably did the best.
Yes, Honchar, Landis, Lang is the order in the overall classification tonight. T-Mobile have given themselves something to race for now because they have first, third and fourth overall, and indeed sixth overall in the Tour de France tonight. There's the result of the time trial. We should have guessed Guy Honchar. Goodness knows why we didn't think of him, but you know, he's never won a time trial stage in the Tour de France before, and he's never worn the yellow jersey. Now he's got both.
Very strange day, a lot of strange performances. There'll be some interest out there to find out exactly what happened to some of the top names. Maybe a little bit of psychological pressure, the pressure of the possibility of getting the yellow jersey for the first time for riders like Levi Leipheimer, riders like Michael Rogers. There'll be a lot of explaining to do.
Look at these two. Head-to-head, they will go out on tomorrow's stage. Landis exactly 1 minute behind him in the overall classification now, and he finishes second to him in the time trial here. Landis definitely had a problem. It's probably cost him a few seconds.
Well, you know, the man on the left there, Sergei Gonchar, has the strangest position in the whole of the sport, but he is such a powerful rider. He uses an absolutely massive gear when he comes up to the line. Landis looked pretty good. He looked concentrated all the time. He never changed his position. You can almost see his eyes there just looking up at the clock to see what kind of a time he's put in. Well, it was the second best time on the day, and he's still got a lot more battling to do before we get to the finish in Paris. And I wouldn't discount Floyd Landis now as being a serious contender for the overall win.
Well, for that, he most certainly is. Floyd Landis now, what price the Tour de France for him? Well, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be with Alan Bob, and they'll bring us right up to date with all of the podiums, and I hope they'll know what has happened to Levi Leipheimer today. Sadly, no Bobby Julich in this race anymore. We'll be back in a moment.
The 2006 Tour de France on OLN is brought to you by Honda, committed to safety for everyone, and by Cervelo.tv.
Ingeniously designed to help protect the things that need protecting. Energy-absorbing ACE body structure, standard on the all-new Civic. Only from Honda.
Time trialing is all about aerodynamics. The biggest contribution that a frame can make is to shield the rear wheel. That's why Cervelo uses this cutout that follows the exact width of the rear wheel and goes up as high as possible.
LL Bean gear. If it lives up to our test, you can be sure it will live up to yours. For a free catalog of everything you need for fall, call us or shop now at llbean.com.
Try new cheesy chicken mashed potato bowls from KFC. Freshly prepared with our famous mashed potatoes, layered with sweet corn, all white meat crispy chicken, and topped with our signature gravy and 3-cheese blend. Great flavors come together at KFC.
When
you think bikes and accessories, think Turin Bicycles Limited. Check out Turin's large selection of mountain and road bikes. Bikes for the entire family. Turin has you covered from head to toe. Turin carries a great selection of biking apparel, including shorts, jerseys, hats, and shoes too. Plus helmets and safety equipment, trip computers, water bottles, car racks, and more. Turin Bicycles expert service department is ready to repair any problem you might have. Turin Bicycles, 700 Lincoln on the northeast corner of Spear and Lincoln. Open 7 days a week and online at turinbikes.com.
For back pain
or sore knees,
you need more than support.
you need support and pain relief.
Icy Hot Pro Therapy puts support and pain relief together. Neoprene support braces hold cold inserts to reduce inflammation or hot inserts to relax away stiffness for up to 8 hours. Icy Hot Pro Therapy. Support braces that hold cold or hot inserts for lasting relief of back and knee pain.
Got no time for pain?
Team up with Icy Hot Pro Therapy. Count on it.
We're back. The Tour in prime time. Sergei Gonchar winning a World Time Trial Championship 6 years ago, and now after bouncing around from team to team to team to team, wins the first stage in the Tour de France that he has ever won in his career. He was the fastest man today. You think he's happy? In front of this huge crowd in the capital of Brittany, in the city of Rennes, Sergei Gonchar has a yellow jersey kind of day. Well, that's one story, and we have a lot more to talk about. Al Trautwig along with Bob Roll. And you talk about what happened to Floyd Landis today. The report that we're getting right now, and we had all this talk with Robbie Ventura, Floyd's coach, about this aerodynamic position like a downhill skier. The buzz we're getting is that the UCI, the world governing body of cycling, forced Floyd Landis to lower his hands right before the start. And then whether that weakened the handlebars or not, we don't know. But apparently he hit a bump, the handlebars cracked, and he was forced to go to a backup bike.
He started the prologue as one of the prospects to win this Tour overall, did a good job there, except he missed his start by about 6 seconds, so this is not a good way to start the Tour. Now those are the bars that he's been using and working on throughout the year, but today that's that bike, not allowed to use it, changing the bars, maybe weakening the juncture between the handlebars and the steer tube. So he hit a bump and they fell down even further. You cannot steer the bike even for 1 mile with a bike like that. And so he had to change that bike again, and he had to finish the time trial on his spare bike. So they have not got this equipment figured out. It's a very radical position that he's using. So we'll have to see how that goes. There's one more time trial for the Phonak squad to get it right.
We talk about milliseconds here and seconds there at a turn, wrong apex. You have to switch bikes. That's a huge thing.
That's gigantic. That's a easy 10, 15, 20 seconds. Also, it breaks your rhythm a little bit. And there's no way you can get two bikes to be identical. Absolutely no way. This was the GC at the start of the day. Forget about it. We have a brand new bike race.
Meanwhile, you have Levi Leipheimer and Discovery to talk about. They have to lick their wounds and find out what happened out there on the roads of northwestern France today. Let's start with Levi Leipheimer. Early on, he looked like he was going well, but then by the time he came across the finish line, all he could do is shake his head at the minutes lost out on the course.
Very slow time by Levi Leipheimer. This is about 96th place, just totally giving up. You can see him slap the bars right there. Just a pitiful day for Levi Leipheimer, and we'll have to see if he can recover that time. For our contenders, they will never let him go up the road and get that time back. So very tough way to start the mountains for Levi Leipheimer, and the rest of his GC is in jeopardy.
And whatever boost in confidence Discovery got when Ivan Basso and Jan Ullrich were ousted from the race is now gone today, because T-Mobile has really taken control of the race, and it's Discovery for the first time in a long, long time in the Tour de France that has to figure out what went wrong collectively. This was a team-wide malfunction today.
Savladelli, Popovich, and George Hincapie, 24th place on the stage. That is a tough way to start your journey into the mountains at the Tour, with a big deficit to Gonchar and Floyd Landis, who was flying today.
Well, back to the inflatable podium at the finish line for the honor of Sergei Gonchar. There's nothing in his resume that suggests that he can challenge in the big mountain stages, and all the big mountain stages are still to come in the Pyrenees and the Alps. And so if you're Floyd Landis, in spite of whatever the UCI did or did not do to you at the start, in spite of the handlebars coming apart, in spite of the happiness of Sergei Gonchar of Ukraine wearing the yellow jersey, you have to be very, very good about where you stand in this Tour de France right now.
I think that Floyd is in a perfect spot there. T-Mobile, not a lot to start with at the Tour, but getting a lot out of it. A stage win already, and now the yellow jersey. and it will be their obligation to defend that jersey throughout the rest of the stages leading up into the mountains. Phonak will not have to do any of the tempo making, and T-Mobile, it will be a pleasure for them to do that and keep Gonchar in the jersey as long as they can.
Well, once again, the stage is going to go flat tomorrow, and what's really going to be a little frustrating now is that the next 2 days are not going to give us any clarity as to what's going to happen within T-Mobile, who's going to lead that team. They have a lot of talent, and today they had a lot of depth. Now tomorrow, back to the sprinters on the flatlands as we begin our march now south toward the Pyrenees. So we'll head toward Bordeaux, Saint-Maine-le-Grand to Lorient to the south coast of Brittany, 181 kilometers live tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Eastern, 5:30 out west, enhanced coverage in prime time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. So we've made our way north. Now we're eventually going to head to the coast, and then the big sweep down toward Bordeaux and the Pyrenees. But yet another day for the flatlands, another day for the sprinters tomorrow.
Saint-Maine-le-Grand in the very far western corner of France. Day for the sprinters, presumably 181 kilometers. To Lorient, a bunch of Cat 4s and sprints out on the racecourse.
So that's going to do it for our coverage of Stage 7 today. In a way, Stage 7 was satisfying. In a way, it's even more confusing now. For more race coverage, go to olntv.com for daily blogs, race information, and more. You can even ask Bobby a question there. OLN team outfitted by LL Bean. Go to llbean.com. Up next on OLN, it's the Volvo Ocean Race as our coverage of the 2006 Tour de France continues. For Bob Roll, Phil Liggett, Paul Sherwen, Craig Hummer, Frankie Andreu, and Robbie Ventura, I'm Al Trautwig. And there you see Sergei Gonchar of Ukraine in the yellow jersey tonight. We'll see you tomorrow here on OLN.